Okay, we'll see. We'll see. All right, let's try it again. If somebody's able to, if you don't mind, please feel free to go over. If somebody's able to go over to YouTube and just see if it's working. It's been giving me a little issue. I think it might have been title related, but I tried the same thing. Maybe it's not. But anyways, thank you guys for being on. Thank you for your patience. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect this rising's message. Aman. Hola, mi nombre es Kofi, ¿cómo está? Bonjour, je m'appelle Kofi, ça va? Ni hao, namaste, osai, enikatuya, ohio. I see you. Wagwan, kamsamida, aloha, ciao, habarigari, akwaba, madase, etc. Jambo, Mimini Kofi, the Nefra Kukutana Nwewe, Boker Tov, Boker Tab, Grand Rising, Bakwatav, Barakala Chamihava, Anai Kwadai, Kohelet at Service of Christ, Mashalom Chi, Barak, Achi at Achiat at Zion. Hello, everybody. I am Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being the voice of the voices and speaking the unspoken. We appreciate your presence. Thank you for hanging in there a little bit with us as we had to get things going. Prayerfully, all is well with everybody, and we thank you so much. Thank you for joining us yesterday evening, if you were able to, on Zoom through the Patreon link. I believe it was a success. We kind of just flowed a little bit, and prayerfully everybody enjoyed or saw the beginning of something that I believe could be a really special thing that we do from time to time. So thank you everybody for being on with us. We appreciate you one more again, and we're excited about the word of Yah. We're excited about His will and His way and what He has for us, and we're thankful and grateful to be with you all one more again. We give all honor and praise, of course, to the Most High once again, Yahweh. We give all praise and honor to Him for my Eshach, my wife, the Honorable Amma, who lives a life that's able to be honored. As always, you can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And thank you all for being on and the support that you give her as she supports the diaspora. Hopefully we're still in hashtag SOC mode as we're supporting each other's businesses, coming up with businesses that we might be able to learn and grow from. Thank you for everybody who's joined us on the podcast. Later on, hopefully we'll finally have a return of live on Clapper. Thank you everybody who's on Facebook, everybody on YouTube, everybody on TikTok. We appreciate your presence so very much today, and we're excited to be before you one more again. We are going to go over some deep, in-depth stuff today. So we'll get ready to do our Bible pledge in a little bit, but let's say hello everybody first. Hello to everybody on all platforms once again. How we doing? How you doing? Sister Sherry, hola, ¿cómo estás? Mi hermana Sherry, Dwayne, Beck, Bruda, Warman 725, Sister Knight, Sister Deborah, Jameer, and thank you for the love, appreciate it. Jacob, or Jacob, Jacob, not sure which pronunciation still, please forgive me. How you doing, Sister Tanisha? How you doing? Big Roy, Yach is my guide. D, the trader, not traitor, but D, the trader. How you doing? All conscious, all awareness, Grand Rising. How you doing? How you doing? Be real. How you doing, Marky? How you doing, Minister Tamara, Sister Monica, Big Brother Thomas, Rufus, everybody, my guy, everybody, L Woods. If I miss you on any of the platforms, charge it to my head, not to my heart. Appreciate you. Today we're going to get into some very in-depth conversation and some prayer for you all already. It was taking me so long to get these signals going, and finally we got everything going together. So forgive me if you don't mind. We are going to do our Bible pledge. If you want to go ahead and do that pledge with us, if you want to, if you're able to, feel free to do that with us in a second. Before we get started, I do need to grab some water. I can already tell that I need to make sure that I'm hydrated. So just give me like 30 seconds to go across the way, grab some water, and then I'll be right back in front of your face. Thank you. Alrighty. Alrighty, let's go ahead and get ready to get into this pledge. For those of you who stuck around, we appreciate you. I know I ask it a lot for you guys to come on and then wait and come on and then wait, but I know I need some water. Praise you. Alrighty. I'm on. Okay. This is even a little less water than I'm used to, but that's all right. We'll go with that for today. So thank you, everybody. So let's go ahead and do our Bible pledge real quick. How you doing, Sister Nadine? How you doing, Brother Raj, Sister Keita? Everybody, if I miss you coming in, thank you so much. How you doing, Cultural? Sister Dawn. All right, here we go. Bible pledge. You can just repeat after me. This is my Bible. This is my sword. And this will I trust. For Yehoshua is Lord. No sword of God shall ever be heard. For this is my Bible. And this is Yah's word. Hashem Yehovah. Aman. In Yehovah's name. Amen. All righty. Today. And thank you for doing that with us and standing with us. You maybe go back to being seated or go back to whatever you're doing in the presence of Yah, right? You said you really think the lions are devils, sir? Okay. How you doing, Ronnie? Today we're going to speak specifically on reverse engineering the Negro. On what? Today we're going to talk about specifically reverse engineering the Negro. Right? How you doing, Mad Bear? Now, this is a topic that's going to be touching. Moderators, I'm going to ask for you to be ready. It depends on how many people they allow to come into the platform, how the algorithm works today. How you doing, Elwin? How you doing, Donovan? So we may or may not have too much. I think I said hello, Omika. If I didn't, please forgive me. But today we're going to talk about some touchy subject matter. Now, not only because we're talking about Negro, but people are going to make the assumption that Negro is Negro or that Negro means black. Which means that we automatically go into a category where people are not thinking about culture, nation, proper theology or theological fashion, in the theological fashion to speak specifically about religiosity. And people are going to go to a place where it's just black versus white, Jacob versus Esau, meaning black versus white, which is very immature and very incomplete way of looking at things, right? But we're going to talk about this properly. We're not going to try to be right. We're going to be righteous. We're going to use our words correctly. We're going to give proper context. As we talk about often, we do not want to just give facts. We do not just want to give context. We want to give contextual facts, right? So if we're going to give proper contextual facts, then we must ensure that we are proper in how we deal with this as a man and as a woman. Right, or as a man and a woman, right? So today, once again, we are talking about what? We are talking about specifically. We are speaking on reverse engineering the Negro. Reverse engineering the Negro. How you doing, Aaron? Thanks for being on. So when I say Negro, we have to be very specific here. When we say Negro, we're not talking about just the fact that you're black. This is something that got lost on a lot of people, and it's what happens. Somebody calls you something and you come outside of yourself. When somebody calls you something and they're your teacher, you come outside of yourself. Excuse me. When you've been taught, as much as we swear that we don't want to be called out of our name, we've been called out of our name, out of our culture, out of our heritage so much and for so long that we just assume that it's proper to continue to do so, right? But when I say I'm speaking to the Negro, I'm speaking to a very specific group of people, right? Hello, how you doing? My Wi-Fi is bad? Okay, cool. Thank you so much for being on. Appreciate you. So, hold on. Is it bad? Okay. So I apologize for that. No, let me go ahead and wait. So, over there. Okay. So, as we talk about this topic today, we have to realize and recognize very quickly that I'm not talking to everybody. And even when we talk about the Bible, by the way, that's why we have to go back to talking about this, that the Bible is not written to everybody, correct? How you doing, Brother Thomas? All right. So the Bible is not written to everybody. Never has been, never will be for everybody. It's not supposed to be used that way, to be looked at that way. And so, but here's another thing. The Bible It is written, as much as people aren't going to want to hear this, because we talk about not all Israel is Israel. We talk about black versus white, this and that, but you're going to have to stay in here long enough to get what I'm saying if you don't dig it from the beginning, right? The Negro is who the Bible is written to. And anybody who wants to be grafted into the Negro, some of you got it before the teachings, right? The Negro is who the Bible is written to. And those who want to be grafted into the Negro, we can start having a conversation. Now, once again, because somebody told you what a Negro is and changed it, your mindset is already up. He's reverse racist, he's racist, this and that. But you got to be careful. That's not what I'm saying. Once again, if you hear what I'm even saying about being grafted in, you must recognize that I'm not talking about black only, right? I'm talking about Negro. Somebody says, well, Negro in Spanish means black. Sure. But if you go to Spain, a so-called black person is considered to be moreno, right? They even have dishes and stuff where they talk about moreno y blanco, right? Or it might be morena y blanco, please forgive me, I can't recall if it's masculine or feminine, but I believe it's moreno y blanco, talking about beans and rice. Even the black beans and rice, they still call them moreno, right? Because they believe that black people are in fact what? Black people are in fact brown. What we call black in Spain, they'd be brown. So even this whole mindset that people are talking about, when I say Negro, I'm not talking about all black people. I'm talking about a specific group. We don't even know who a Negro is. That's part of the problem. Would I have a word for the children of Gaza? I have a word for the children of Gaza. Well, I mean, I'm not talking about that right now. But if you want something real brief, to the children of Gaza, the same thing that we've been saying the whole time, which is, first of all, to the world, to humanity, children shouldn't be dealing with war. And if anybody's okay with anybody dealing with war, it's wrong. If you're talking about a word for the children of Gaza, prayerfully you're protected enough to make it, and to make it to a place to where you can recognize what sovereignty actually is, right? Because if anything, as far as my bloodline, the children of Gaza are more of my family than anybody who's in modern Israel, at least those who are fighting on behalf of the Zionist movement of modern Israel. Other than that, I'm praying. I'm praying also for the children of modern Israel, because a lot of them are growing up being taught foolishness, right? At the end of the day, children, as somebody who's been in the military, right, I can just tell you like this: war is not cute, and it's not a right versus left thing. And so I would just basically say that, as But once again, I'm talking about today, reverse engineering the Negro. How you doing, Sabrea? Right? See, because what you think of the Negro, what's been built in your mind, it must be reverse engineered. See, also too, we want to talk about this term reverse engineer. See, because it's a very romantic thing. It's a very Greco-Roman thing. And not just for them only, but I'm saying as far as you are very Greco-Roman, many are, in how they look at the world. The Greek letters, when in Rome do as the Romans do. Your so-called democracy that's not even constitutional because it's not even written in the Constitution, right? But we live by other people's standards and other people's culture so much. And what Romans are famous for, what Greeks are famous for, are reverse engineering. I'm not going to say Romans don't have a culture. I'm not going to do this weird thing that people say white people have no culture. That's not true. However, we be honest, a big part of the culture is reverse engineering, right? So what does that mean? And what's the purpose of reverse engineering? How you doing, Ria? Or Ria, I can't remember. Please forgive me. Right? How you doing, DB? So when you reverse engineer something, especially from the romantic point of view, what you're doing is that you're taking what's already been. What you're taking is what's already been built. Okay? If you're reverse engineering something, you're taking something that's already been built and breaking it down. But as you break it down, you're making sure that you catalog everything, that you take time out to write what goes where. How you doing, Sister Renee? You take time out to see all these different things where they are, right? And then you label it, and then you try to engineer it again, build it again. Once you can officially tear something down and build it back up exactly the way it's supposed to go, what the cultures you're familiar with do after that, what they end up starting to do is they start going through a process of, they start reverse engineering again, breaking it down again. They have a catalog this time. They've done it twice, and now they know how it works to break something down. When they build it back up, they put things that they feel would make it stronger. And usually, from the Roman perspective, this means that you're talking about making something that is better for war. So, for example, the Romans, there's a famous there's famous wars, plural, but we usually think of it as one war over 100 plus years or so. But you have the Carthaginians that went against the Romans, right? Known as the Punic Wars, really should be the Punic Wars, or Pavanic Wars, or the Panician Wars, even, which you call it should be the Phoenician Wars, phonetic people, mixed with Israel, Aleph Bey, things like that, right? A group of people that had a lot of their families wiped off the face of the planet or were scattered by Rome. And this is before Christ. We always talk about the scattering of the Negro happened way before. But, people don't think about these things, and we don't think of Carthaginians as possibly being your people, even though they said that they were, even though they said that they were mixed with Canaanite and Israelite blood, even though they used the Aleph Ba'ayin, which you call the Aleph Bid. But, we don't think of them as such, right? Nevertheless, these are people who fought against the Romans, and the Romans ultimately won. But let's go to one specific thing in history. This is actually pre-Hannibal, or at least pre-Hannibal, the second Hannibal that is most famous, where there was an issue with fighting. Now, Romans thought that it was weak. I'll say it like that because they would have used another term, but they thought that it was weak to fight on ships, to fight on the water. So Romans fought everything on land, pretty much. They did have some ships and things like that because, hey, I guess you got to protect, your back somewhat. You got to protect your land somewhat. But for real, they were like, hey, we prefer land. And so they really weren't, that great at fighting on the waters. They ran into the Carthaginians, and the Carthaginians had fleets of ships. They were great. And so the Romans, trying to fight the Carthaginians, had to try and start getting into the water. They would get torn up all the time, over and over and over again, right? And as they were getting whooped, it didn't look too great for the Romans. But all of a sudden, and this is at least how the story goes, who knows if it was stolen, this and that, but at least what's written is that more than likely, nobody says for sure, but more than likely, somehow, some way, a Carthaginian ship came into Roman territory with nobody on it. That's what they say. So, and they took the ship and they reverse engineered it. They broke it down, and then they built it back up. And once they realized they could do that, they broke it down again, got a whole bunch of materials to build ships. And then what they did was they built the ship back up, but then they started putting extra weapons on the ship. And so then they would go against the Carthaginians with the same type of ship, with a crew that's now been trained, and they also had weapons on the ship. And the Carthaginians would look at them funny, like they had a weapon. For example, I don't recall what this. I can't recall its name at this time, but it was like a big, huge stick, and it had a spike on it, right? And the Carthaginians would laugh. They'd be like, why would you even do that? It makes the ship slower, this and that, whatever. And so the Carthaginians would come, be ready to ram their ship, stuff like that. And then as they would get close, they would they would have the thing come down, boom, and nail into the Carthaginian ship. Now the Carthaginian ship is damaged also. They can come across it, and now they can go ahead and get on your ship, and they can cause further damage. So they took something that you had already built, they reverse engineered it, and then when they built it back up, they made sure that they put something that made them ahead of the game. This is a very romantic quality, and this is something that still happens today, right? Right? I'm not sure if that's the name of it or not. How you doing, Sister Sheila? So, in these things that happen, this is a very regular thing that you take what somebody's doing already, and you break it down, or you take a people, and you break them down, and then you reverse engineer them. So you see what they do, you study them, right? You study them as if they're an animal, and you break them down, right? This is Willie Lynch like as well, right? You take this N-word male or this N-word female, and you study them in their own life, what they do in the wild. That's what savage means. Sauvage en français is wild. Or sauvage, right? Savage is a French word that means to be wild. Sauvage en anglais is wild, excuse me. And savage just means like wilderness. Savage, wild, wilderness, it just means you're outside of somebody's community, or what they consider to be a proper community. So we're not savage in our own community. We're savage when we're introduced to their community. And that's what they're saying. In comparison, when somebody says somebody's a savage, they're saying, in comparison to me, you are actually nothing. You are wild. When somebody says wild, right, they're saying that you don't fit into my civilization. Now, if we tame you, you fit into our civilization, but you're still not on our level. But we'll tame you. We'll bring you in. And if you act tame, you can be part of the family. Right? This is what, and I'm not speaking ill of animals, but let's just be honest, it's the way that they think. So just like your dog becomes part of the family. And I know what we mean when we say it. My family has had pets, has a pet right now. And yes, the pet, when we go certain places, should be treated. But I'm going to be honest with you, my pet is not on the same level as a human being. Right? There are certain things that my pet doesn't want that a human being would want. Why? Because my pet is an animal. And so even though I have an animal that's tamed in my house, the animal really, if we be honest about it, the animal is actually wild because it's not in its civilization. Now, what happens with a lot of pets is that you breed a lot of wildness out of them, like we were bred. So you breed the animals to the point to where they'll be so busy trying to make sure that the things that they should have on their own, they can only get from you. They'll even compete with other animals. Some of you who have a lot of dogs know this, that if you have more than one dog, if you have more than one cat, or if you have more than one pet, they will compete for your attention. They don't mind, even being friendly with each other, but to a certain extent. They all need certain things from you or whatever, and just in the fact that they have been tamed and bred, and there's certain things that they have to do, and since you're the one they're looking for, they'll start competing, right, for affection. They'll even turn on each other sometimes. They'll even find creative ways to be able to blame another pet for something. They'll come up with all types of stuff because they've been raised in a wild situation, right? That's not in their civilization. Where they come from, right? So like a dog mostly, I know there's African dogs as well and stuff, but a dog mostly comes from the wolf. And the wolf, the way the wolf lives, there is no such thing as the alpha male, alpha female, all that. That was a lie, right? That was somebody who didn't know what they were talking about. It was and really the whole thing of an alpha coming from Rome, which is the thing of really alpha. Romans getting it from the Greeks, is that they actually thought about pecking order, and alphas were alpha hens. In the chicken community, there's only one rooster anyways, and so you'll have a bunch of hens running around, and the hens have a pecking order. They'll start pecking at the other ones, and the ones that peck on the other ones, right, who have the power, the other ones will cower when they start getting pecked on. So the pecking order is put in place, and they would call the alpha hen. Last time I checked, I'm not a hen, so I'm not worried about being an alpha. Right? All these alpha males out here, it'd be so interesting if they realize that they're basically trying to act like hens. But see, this is why we got to reverse engineer. See, we've had this thing reverse engineered. Somebody broke it down and tried to build it up to give you a false equivalency to truth. And a half truth or even a false equivalency to truth is always a whole lie. How you doing, you tons of music? How you doing, Fiverr? Right? So we gotta reverse engineer some things. We've been taught some things that we're looking at people who don't even like us, by the way, and now we're trying to figure out how to keep up with what they want us to have, and keep up with the teachings that they're giving us, and keep up with all this stuff, so we can feel like we have some kind of faux citizenry. When the reality is that, or faux citizenship. When the reality is that we are in fact sovereign, and everything that exists because of our sovereignty, or the fact that we decided to give it to somebody else, because nobody can have sovereignty unless somebody gives it. It's not just that it was taken, you had to give. We're going to talk about this during the day, but we've got to, today, once again, I've been sent with a message about reverse engineering the Negro. So who is this Negro? Right? There was a movement in the 60s, said, I'm not your Negro. Okay, but who is this Negro? Because, Negro just means somebody with Negroid features. I know you don't think of it that way, but that's what it's been reverse engineered to be. So that basically, if you look African in any way, shape, or form, you must be a Negro. But that in and of itself is a lie. Because even the term Africa is referring to one group of people that were conquered, and they said they took over a whole continent. That's not how that works. But when you reverse engineer the truth, and then you build it back up to make sure that you can weaponize it for yourself. Well, then you get people like Scipio Africanus. If you look up Scipio Africanus, you'll discover that he's somebody who did in fact win against a certain group of people that were African, and so everybody in the continent now just becomes known as African because this one Roman was able to fight off and fend off and unfairly even beat up a group of people that were in what you now call the African continent. Yeah, we're not wolves, hominid, alpha, competitions lead on to conflict. There you go, right? Now our sisters who are in pecking order stuff, they have some issues. White women who are in pecking order stuff, sisters as far as humanity who are in pecking order stuff, there seems to be a lot of issues, right? And brothers trying to act like sisters because, to be honest with you, I'm not trying to say that brothers don't do this, but I'm saying brothers are now to the place to where we're very effeminate. So much so we've been fed things. Look at this. Watch this in your sports. You know how crazy it is? See, it's not in your culture. I'm not saying that we're not competitive at all, but you know how crazy it is, real talk, to be sitting up here acting like gladiatorial games are not about LGBTQ plus stuff? Right? Can we just, I'm sorry to burst somebody's bubble. Somebody's going to be upset and offended because, oh no, it's a manly game in football and blah, blah, blah. Do you not realize that you're dealing with gladiatorial sports? Do you not realize what the spirit of that is? It's talked about. We just don't know what's going on at the time when it was written in your Bible. But Revelation chapter 3, verse 1, when it starts talking about the assembly of, I'm about to say the wrong one. Is it the assembly? It's not the assembly of Smyrna. Is it? No. It's the assembly of, it's the fifth assembly. Please forgive me if somebody could look it up. But the assembly of Sardis. And the assembly of Sardis, when it starts talking about them, what you not recognize is that in Sardis they had a gymnasium spirit. Now you say, oh, gymnasium, you mean a gym? Yeah. See, because back then the gym was not for everybody. The gym was only supposed to be for males. And the gym was only for males who were slaves, who were gladiators. And they would go there, just like they would compete with no clothes on and stuff like that. They would go to the gym, they would work out, they would be naked. This is why people don't have clothes. You just go, oh, well, you can't have loose clothes and this and that or whatever. Like, you don't have to have extremely tight clothes and all that extent stuff and to be sitting there talking about why are people looking at you and that's not what I came here for. And that's the spirit. Now, am I saying you can't go to a gym at all? No, right? You can work out outside of a gym that does exist, but whatever. You can go to the gym, push iron, lift weight. I'm not gonna hold you. I got a gym membership. I kind of use the gym different than what a lot of other people do, but still, I'm not going to hold you, but you got to know what you're in for. You got to recognize that when you're going there, people are going there. Part of the reason they're going there is to build up their body, but what they used to do is that it was for the slave. The slave. And we're not just talking about black slave. We're talking about anybody who was going to be a gladiator. Some people chose to be gladiators, which is why it's interesting to me that when people write the book, nowadays it's out like $1 Million Slave, and somebody says, how can you be a $1 Million Slave? How can you play sports? It doesn't make sense that you get sports, you get all these opportunities, and you're a slave. Figure out what you got to do. You got to talk about that gymnasium spirit. You don't know. See, the assembly of Sardis is dealing with stuff because in the city that they're in, people are going to this gymnasium, not just the gladiators, but then others would show up. They can't work out there, but they would show up to watch, and many of them would pay money to watch a lot of these naked dudes be around, whether they were male or female. They would pay to watch these naked guys around working out, and then on top of that, they might pay money to be able to say, hey, let's go into a room over here, or hey, bring them to my home later, because they're slaves, and so they can be sold out. So these are also prostitutes. Right? These are people that are owned. Whatever their master says goes. I know you guys don't want to hear that, but that's what happens. That's how you get some of these sports stars who begin to tell you the truth about something, and all of a sudden, a month later, this is how you can have the left say, it's so wrong to say shut up and dribble, but then Kyrie, now all of a sudden Kyrie's about to go to the championship again with Luka, and now look at him bowing down to Luka, and he's being such a great teacher and a great motivator, and this and that, and he's just totally changed himself. What they're saying is Kyrie shut up and dribble. He did it. It happened right in front of our face. We argued against the Fox News pundit, whatever her name is, when she said it, but now Kyrie shut up and dribbled, and everybody's fine. Now we're the ones saying, you see that? You see how he fit in? He made ball. Yeah, yes, sir, boss. He's not racist anymore. You see that? And he's a champion. And you know what? He apologized, and he did it. Now you can tell me that's not slavery all you want. How you doing, Cole? Hey, how you doing, one and only Nicole? I don't know why you're putting your insecurities and what you do in your life on me, but, welcome. How you doing? Right? So, in all these different things that you have to realize, right? Hey, how you doing, Rati? Yeah, y'all got to be better than this. This is all you got. Man, I hope that you guys have better things to do in life. Praise y'all, though. I'm glad, because usually when you guys do that, that means that we're more popular in the numbers later on. So I'm actually glad. Come on, bring it on. Say your foolishness. Go ahead and get reported, get blocked, and all that stuff, and then have a great day. Right? So come on in there. Right? But you gotta realize that when people are having this conversation, they don't even recognize what's going on. Right? So when you're seeing the gymnasium stuff, when you're going to the gym and you're like, how is everybody watching me, this and that? That's the spirit of it. That's what it was there for. Right? That's what it was there for. That's what that was created for. You see? And so you got to realize and recognize that when people are trying to say all these things, when people are trying to say all these things about us and trying to get into the community and how you doing, Ernest? Excuse me, forgive me. How you doing, Minister Shante? I missed you. Please forgive me. Right? And anybody I missed, please forgive me. Hey, how you doing, Cool Gaming? This is what I do. I don't have to have a 9 to 5. That stopped a long time ago. You have to go to yours. Maybe you should get ready for it. Right? But see, I love this. So watch this. So what are we talking about today? The reverse engineering of the Negro. I told you guys this happens. The Holy Spirit allows us to have something. The Holy Ghost allows us to have something, and people come on and literally just give us exactly what it is that we need. Right? That we need to see how foolish a lot of these people are tied into a system. But I'm thankful. I'm serious. Whenever this happens, on YouTube specifically, our numbers skyrocket. So this is a great sign. You get me pumped up when you do stuff like this, because now I know I got to come with my A game. There's going to be a lot more people today. Praise y'all. Right? So watch this. So in this gymnasium spirit, you're dealing with a bunch of stuff where it was set up for the LGBTQ plus experience. And the gladiators go out there so people can see people, sure, competing. It wasn't as much blood and as taking of life as was sensationalized, but there was a lot of blood and taking of life. And you're watching people basically be buck naked during it. Look at a WWE event. Look at professional wrestling. Look at your AEWs. Look at your New Japan. What was the one that they had for Lucha Libre that picked up? It was like kind of underground, or Lucha. It was called Lucha Underground, right? All that stuff. You're looking for a lot of sensuality. Matter of fact, the Lucha Underground, they just gave it to you. They had a couple wrestlers that was just straight up, out there, and that was what was called their gimmick, or maybe that's how they lived their life. So, how you doing, Lance? So these things are put out there specifically, and now the same way, it's funny. We'll make fun of the sisters and say, "What you doing? Looking at their general hospitals and all this stuff or whatever." But here you are talking about, LeBron James and his son. And LeBron James, and did he mention some girl's booty 3 years ago or 4 years ago? Or Stephen A. Smith is gossiping about so-and-so. You don't want to call it gossiping. You say it's great television reporting. And now Gilbert Arenas is coming in, and he's fighting with Rashawn McCants. I think that's his name. I didn't even know his name when he played. No offense to Rashawn McCants, whoever gets to you. I just don't know if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Right? But we have all these different things that people are saying. You said you're cracking up over here, keeping attention. Yeah, right. So there's a interesting dynamic that's going on where we're not catching what's actually happening, right? And it's been reverse engineered. It was taken and it was broken down, even from being broken down, because what happens is things were fine the way that they were. Fine, intact. That's what fine means. It was fine, it was intact. And then it got defined. Somebody broke down what was fine. And then it got redefined. Somebody broke down what was broken down from what was fine. And then it got redefined, if you will. So what happens is we have to salvage it. We have to do something called refine. And we got to bring this stuff back to the original intent. Right? Now we got to refine it. We've got to bring something back to its original intent. And thanks for being on, babe. My wife is on, the Honorable Alma. As always, check her out on TikTok, YouTube, the website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. Thank you for being on, babe. Love you very much. So we're going through this thing where we got to deal with the fact that we have been reverse engineered. his story is reverse engineered, right? It's a reverse engineered product of the story, of our story. And so if we realize reverse engineering has happened where somebody's broken this stuff down, and we're talking about today reverse engineering the Negro, then we have to once again figure out who is this Negro. Because Negro doesn't just mean black, it doesn't just mean African. Matter of fact, according to law, this is why law is always important that you get into law. According to law, a Negro was anybody who had a drop of black blood. But once again, they didn't just consider black to be African. If you were Native American, you were Negro. You see that? So many people walk around today saying there's no way I can be a Negro if I'm Native American. And so now we've had this thing where people say, I'm so separate from the African, forgetting, first of all, there was something called Pangea, or even if you don't believe in Pangea, the Bible declares that your Bible, for those of you who believe in it, it says that Peleg, he was named after when the earth split. He's the second son of Shem. So when the earth split up, the second son of Avla, or Eber. So when the earth splits, that was when Hebrew's second son was being born, and he was named after that event. How you doing, Sister Serling? So we know this, right? That the earth was all together. So even this whole weird thing of like you're all the way over here, or the fact that Christopher Columbus looks for the land of Asheroth, which is talked about in 2 Esther chapter 13, verses 40 through 45, and he brings a Hebrew interpreter over with him, and the Hebrew interpreter is the one that has a conversation with the people that are in Haiti, or what you now call Haiti, and the Dominican Republic, and they have this conversation, and when they bring slaves back, and they bring the weaponry back, they bring Guanine weapons. They bring Guanine weapons back because when they had this conversation, the people who speak a dialect of Hebrew over here, and the people who spoke a dialect of Hebrew who came over with Christopher Columbus said that, oh yeah, we know about you guys. We have the same weapons in West Africa. We're mixed together. We have families and everything. We consider ourselves to be Israel. They have a conversation. And they bring the weapons back, not believing it. And when they bring the weapons back, not only to West Africa, but to Spain and even the Vatican, everybody agrees these are the same exact weapons. This was not new that we were over there, nor it was not new that the Israelite language was the language of all creation. If you go to Cherokee countries, if you go to North Carolina, if you go to South Carolina, if you go to Georgia, if you go to Tennessee, you will discover that there's many different Native Americans who have been writing in Paleo-Hebrew for a long time. Matter of fact, there is Paleo-Hebrew writing, amongst many other writings to be honest, but they go up to one of the oldest pyramids in North America and one of the biggest ones that's in Illinois. Yes, there's a huge pyramid in Illinois, right? This is not taught because in order to teach that, you would have to let what was engineered stand. You have to reverse engineer it. Matter of fact, you had to let grass and everything grow upon it and make it to look something that you can't go, but you can go see it for yourself. That one of the biggest pyramids in North America is right in Illinois. And if you look carefully, at least if they'll let you, I don't know if they let you inside anymore, right? But if they'll let you, at least from what is told to us, I can't act like I've been inside to see it myself, but supposedly there's supposed to be Avla or Paleo-Hebrew writing. We know that when slaves were freed, who were Native Americans mixed with African blood, by the way, that's not something that shouldn't be, that's not some real quick, insignificant, just wash over what I just said. Native Americans with African blood, Africans with Native American blood, however you want to look at it, Hebrews with, or Negroes with Native American blood. It's something you got to look into because, for example, I'm Anaketawiyah, or what people would call Cherokee. Cherokee is actually a bad term used for us because it was used by our enemy who fought with those who colonized everybody. So that's not actually what we called ourselves. Somebody else called us that as a slang or as a term they would use for their enemy. So when you call my people Cherokee, that's like a name that we, that's not us. It's like when you say, for example, India, right? India is actually Bhagat, right? India is not, nobody knew what India was until they were captured. You know this, right? Just like there's no such thing as a Hindu religion. Hindu is what the English called them. So there's no such thing as a Hindu religion. Right? There's no such thing as a Hindu religion. The Hindus, right? The Hindus are not Hindu, nor do they have a Hindu faith or a Hindi faith, right? Somebody heard something, couldn't pronounce it, called a small group of people and then said, you know what, just like the whole African thing, where one group of people supposedly conquered and so all the continents conquered, they said, you know what, everybody in this whole country, we're just going to, or really, well, it wasn't even a country at that time. Recall, all these things that you be calling countries and states and all this stuff are usually things that have been conquered, colonized, and somebody says, okay, we'll just call this group this, and it's usually for a business purpose because these are corporations. Don't forget, if you look up Nigeria, Nigeria was never called Nigeria, number one, but number two, it's originally was captured by a corporation. The corporation who still makes a lot of money there and still makes the decisions there behind the scenes, but they sold it to England. So when you talk about England being over Nigeria, England, who's a corporation themselves really, but England had to get it from another corporation. If you talk about Hawaii, Hawaii was owned by the Dole plantation. That's why there's an island where Dole is allowed to grow stuff and nobody else can pick stuff from there. How does Dole have something that belongs to natives or belongs to the United States of America, where it was the Dole Corporation who bought Hawaii or who conquered Hawaii first, and then when they had Hawaii, then they sold it to the United States of America. United States of America. See, you keep thinking, oh no, this stuff, no, all these territories and everything, they get sold. Somebody has to buy them. For example, what is that? I think it's out. Yeah, Alabama could have. If I might be reversing this. Maybe it's Florida could have done it to Alabama, but I'm pretty sure I have this correct. Alabama could have bought Florida, right? But Alabama didn't want to pay the money to own Florida. But that's why if you look, you have this little weird, like, all of a sudden you have like Florida and all this stuff is Florida, and then you got this little strip, right? Well, that little strip was supposed to like continue to go up into Alabama. Matter of fact, at some point it could have been Georgia, Alabama, Florida all being one. But it didn't happen because somebody didn't want to buy it. These are purchases. The Louisiana Purchase. Louisiana Purchase, forgive me, I'm just going on top of my head, so I could be wrong in some of this. When we talk about the Louisiana Purchase, we're talking about Louisiana, right? Are we talking about Kansas, North Dakota, South Dakota, all that stuff going up to the Canadian border? All that's a purchase. Somebody bought all that, right? That wasn't part of the United States of America. That was France's. France got rid of it because France started losing money when Haiti gained their independence. That's why France had to shift, and then France eventually was able to get help to take over Haiti again and made Haiti pay France reparations. And then once they finished, then they went ahead and said, hey, CIA, y'all want some of this? And the CIA said, sure, no problem. They stepped in and they started taking over. Right? That's what they did. How you doing, Sister Danielle? How you doing, brother, yourself? This is the reality, right? Well, you've been raised in something that's completely wrong. We have to reverse engineer this. See, we don't even know. It's hard to see this. Like I say, I'm talking about Negro, but I'm bringing up all these other things because people don't recognize what's going on. Like, you have a lot of different things that are going on where somebody took what was built, stripped it down, and then built it back up to serve their own interests and to make money off of it. They made it appropriate. Remember, the word appropriate doesn't mean it's correct. Appropriate means somebody took it. Somebody took it without permission, so they stole it. They reverse engineered it. They broke it down. They started giving it back out, and they did it for profit. So when you say you want to be appropriate, what you're saying is, I don't want to be part of the original. I don't want to be in the truth. This is why I don't ever speak appropriately. I don't. What I say is something that doesn't go well in churches. What I teach you now, it's not going to go well in social media platforms. What I'm telling you is not going to gather, at least easily gather 15, 20, 30 million people to gather up. Right? Because what I'm telling you is inappropriate. It's inappropriate to talk like this. This system, the Negro, has been reverse engineered. And how dare you reverse the curse? How dare you take what we made appropriate and make it inappropriate again? How you doing, Roxy? You hear what I'm saying? How dare you? Even the trolls that we have today. This is what happens. How dare you? Oh, they call it the Dixon Mounds. Okay, thank you, appreciate it. Thank you, Culture. Right, so it's called the Dixon Mounds. I never even knew the actual term, so thank you so much for that. Dixon. If you're looking for what I was talking about in Illinois, the Dixon Mounds. Dixon. And even some of those mounds are bigger than what you see. Right? Even some of them, there's even some of the places that look like hills and stuff, they're actually mounds. Right? But But when you speak this stuff, yeah, when you speak this amat, when you speak this truth, right? When you asad barak or asad amat, excuse me, when you speak truth, asad amat, when you speak truth, you're gonna have an issue because you become inappropriate. You don't fit into what's been reverse engineered. If we could just tell you what inappropriate was, if we were to come up, thank you, Holy Spirit, for that. Because if we were to just come up with a quick definition, a working definition of inappropriate, it means that you don't fit in with reverse engineering. That's it. If you were inappropriate, you don't fit in with reverse engineering. Many of you, when you were children, when you would tell the truth, what would they say? They wouldn't say that you were wrong. They would say it's what? It's inappropriate. Why? Why is it inappropriate? Now, I'm not saying there's not a time and place for everything, but hear what I'm saying. Why would you tell a child who's telling you the truth that the truth is inappropriate? How you doing, Lady K? Right? How you doing, Sister Sage? If I didn't say so earlier, forgive me if I didn't. Why would you tell a child that's telling the truth? Many of you were told this. Now I get there can be, and in our culture there is a such thing as a child's place. Don't get it twisted. But why would somebody go out of their way to tell you that you speaking truth is inappropriate? It's because we don't know what inappropriate means. Inappropriate literally means. Inappropriate literally means that you do not fit in with what's been reverse engineered, or at least that's our working definition. I know literally we use a little too liberally, right? So let me step back a little bit from saying literally, right? However, if you speak truth and it goes against what's been reverse engineered, you by definition are inappropriate. That's just reality. That's real. That's truth. That's a mot. If you're going to speak out, if you're going to tell people what's actually going on, how dare you? We've taken all our time and effort and energy and stuff to ensure that we could have this thing remain appropriate. Appropriate means what? We stole it. We massaged it. We lied about it. We reverse engineered it. We brought right. Then we re-engineered it, but we made sure we re-engineered it to serve our own purposes. And now we're making money off of it. We're making capital off of it. How dare you trying to make this inappropriate again? Yeah, we labeled it. We told you what it was. Right? Why do you want organic food? Organic supposedly means that it hasn't been sprayed with certain stuff. That doesn't mean it's real. Because you can't have organic seedless grapes. But we told you, we made what an organism is to you. We changed the definition of it. And we would greatly appreciate it if you don't tell anybody that it's different. Right? When we started getting taken down, The last YouTube channel that disappeared and we had to start all over again. We got taken down initially because we started telling people that, hey, if you want to take the jab, cool. If you don't, cool. But here's what the law says, and then here's some worldwide laws called the Nuremberg Code. Have at it, and if you want help, we'll help you to start making sure that you can go ahead and not have to take it. As soon as we did that, channel went away. Got 3 strikes. YouTube actually told me. They emailed me and said, hey, your channel's about to go away. World Health Organization, WHO, World Health Organization is really upset about the fact that you're talking about this, and they say that you're lying. And then they didn't even take away the videos that we talked about the jab. They took 3 random videos from a long time ago and just boom, 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 took them away. And then praise God, we had already made sure a lot of our videos were already out in different places and saved. But then they didn't even let us get the videos that we had and get them out. That's why we restarted the YouTube channel. Was because we told the truth, and somebody said, "Oh no, that's not appropriate. That's inappropriate." We didn't tell a fallacy. Matter of fact, the same videos that they got mad about initially, even though those aren't the ones they took down, the same videos that they got mad about initially, I legit kind of copied and pasted. I gave credit and said, "Hey, here's videos where people have been talking about this for years. I'm just going to tell you the same exact thing that they've said." The same stuff that they said they took down, you can still find them on YouTube, right? But they said that's one of the big reasons, that we don't do the AdSense, besides the fact that you have to be controlled in what you say, right? But that's one of the big reasons. Now, this time we definitely stay away from trying to make money off of YouTube, because whoever you're making money off of, they control the narrative. They control you. You got to bow down. And by the way, if we use your platform, I'm thankful for the fact that your platform exists. I got to still respect your platform. It's yours. If you have rules and regulations, I have to bow down if I'm going to use your platform. That's why at some point we need to have our own platform. That's why we were talking a while ago. It's a lot more in detail and it takes a lot more money than what we have at this moment. But at some point we got to have an app. We got to have something because we got to build something up where we can tell the truth, talk to each other. People can put information out to the community and we don't have to worry about it's going to be taken down. I know there's other platforms out there where people have suggested and stuff I've looked into. We haven't really found something that works yet, but we're looking. But you got to have something that's yours. But at the end of the day, still, these are things that are reverse engineered. And if you come against what's been reverse engineered, it is called inappropriate. That's how you can tell a child when they tell you the truth that it's inappropriate. This is how you can have people who are messed up in their own, what is it I'm looking for? Please forgive me. This is how you can have children that are messed with when they're too young to be messed with. Can I say it like that? And when they get messed with, if they tell the truth, it's inappropriate. Now, we won't use the language inappropriate, even though sometimes people will tell. Sometimes their parents, sometimes their uncles or aunts, sometimes their families will tell them, hey, this is not the place. It's inappropriate right now to bring that up. If it's true, why didn't you say it before, blah, blah. But what happens in this house stays in this house is saying that, hey, when you talk about the truth, it's inappropriate. Don't let somebody know that your family did this to you. Don't let somebody know that your mama might have did this. Don't let somebody know that your daddy might have did this. Don't let somebody know. We all know that Uncle so-and-so be around here messing with people or whatever. But hey, you know you ain't supposed to be around Uncle so-and-so. Why was you around Uncle so-and-so, right? Defending Uncle so-and-so rather than saying, hey, truth is first, right? We need to be inappropriate to make sure that this baby is protected. This is why when I've even been talking to the teens and stuff like that recently and talking to these babies and stuff, guess what I have to do? I have to say, hey, parents, right? Parents, be there. You know, hopefully can even do it on Zoom so you can see me, but you know, or even make sure the phone call is there. But parents, be there, make sure, because I'm not trying to talk to no babies. And all of a sudden this, well, you know, Pastor Kofi, blah, blah, this and that. That's not just to protect me, that's to protect these babies. We should have it straight up, set up to where this stuff is there. Hello, how you doing? I don't know if that's your way of saying hello. We usually start with hellos, but if not, I hope you have a great day, right? But you gotta be in a position to make sure that people recognize. And why somebody with thumbs down that's making sure we protect our babies is crazy. You know, you on that Drake tip, I guess. No diddy. But, you know, at the end of the day, we have to make sure that we get to a place where we recognize what's going on. How you doing, Sean? And where we recognize that people want you to be appropriate. How you doing, Los Angeles love? And thanks for being part of the community, right? People want you to fit into what's been reverse engineered. People don't want you to tell the truth. Watch this. And I'm not even coming at you if you're LGBTQ plus. It's not in our culture, but at the same time, look, you in your own culture, you can do what you do. Hear what I'm saying? Nobody, you haven't even thought about the fact that you're so busy asking everybody to bow down to whatever name that you don't realize that if something's not protected by law, it's not real anyways. You know, the people that you're voting for that are promising they're going to get you this and get you this and get you this. Let me help you. Let me bring you to the table. If you're really the ostracized people that you believe, my people have been waiting for a lot of different things from the United States Corporation for a long time. And they will promise you a lot of things, but they will never change the language. By the way, you got to recognize that we, the people of the United States, if you're trying to say you're not a person, you're not a natural person, you're an artificial person, there's no such thing. There's no such thing by law. I'm not trying to tell you that you're not a human being. We respect your humanity. Hear what I'm saying before somebody gets upset. There is no such thing in law as a natural person who is not a male or female. Matter of fact, technically, it's so misogynistic in the system that technically you're not even a natural person if you're not a male. You know how I know that? Because when the Constitution was written, women didn't have the rights that they have now. You couldn't have a bank account. They messed with your land. It was easier to get slave property than it was to get land property. And of course, you couldn't vote. You had no choice. So when you come in talking about, I want to be something different, you got to recognize, according to their law, if you're not a white male, you're not even a natural person. And technically, if you're not a white male with land, this is why you have to stop being a United States citizen and you have to become a sovereign. So that the United States has to honor your sovereignty, even if they don't honor your citizenship. Right? I'm just trying to tell you. I'm trying to just show you something. So as much as you're fighting, hey, we want to make sure that we have LGBTQ plus rights, and you're marching around with them and everything like that. You know, a lot of black folk have stopped marching because we recognize the marching ain't changing nothing. I'm not saying that I don't respect those who march. I'm just saying the marching ain't changing nothing. Because at the end of the day, by law, you're asking for something that they're going to make a fake version of you. So when you have this thing now, make us LGBTQ plus, whatever that is, those are artificial persons according to law. Yeah, it's all a delusion to get you to believe that you have some right that doesn't exist. You should be righteous because your righteousness is protected by law. Your rights are not. Somebody didn't like that at all. No, my rights are protected by law. No, law doesn't give rights. Law protects rights, but it protects rights of the righteous because it's law. Righteousness means law. So when I say rights, you know, the law doesn't give rights, the law protects rights. The law means is the usness part. The righteousness means right, lawful standing. So your right has to be in lawful standing or else it's not protected. Matter of fact, by law, if you're out of right, lawful standing, then we should be protected from you, which is why they have jail. Yeah, they create a reality that's not even real. See, that's why they have jail. They have jail, they got prison. Why? Because there's cats out here that they try to infringe upon your rights, upon your Elohim given rights. Right? And if they're going to go ahead and come against the only real three common laws that are there, which is to make sure that you're not harmed, make sure you're not lied to, and to make sure that you're not stolen from. And those are the three basic common laws that they're using anyway. So if you come against those, and there's a place that we can be protected from you, but they have to take away your right to being a natural person. And when they put you in prison, you are an artificial person. You're a slave. You're registered to the state pen. It's not the United States pen. It's the state pen because every state is a country. 50 states, 50 countries will come together and united on something so that they can have things that come out of a federal corporation. But the reality is every state is a country and every country is a state. What are we talking about today? We're talking about reverse engineering the Negro. I'm just trying to help somebody because before we can even start talking about this, we don't even recognize what humanity has gone through, let alone with the Negro. Forget just color. Somebody trying to tell you there's no such thing as a man or woman is ridiculous. Somebody had to reverse engineer, but it's not that hard to see how they reverse engineered that. If you don't recall, it wasn't too long ago that babies were babies, no matter how old they were. And when I say how old they were, your baby didn't start becoming a baby, right? I know this is weird for you, but there's other cultures out there that have, that do born days a lot different than we do, or different than your birthdays even. And, for example, in Korea, is it Korea or China? I could be wrong. I think it's Korea. Could be both. But everybody in Korea, I believe, somebody look this up and hold me accountable, but if I'm wrong, right? But I believe it's in Korea. Everybody has the same born day. It's China? Okay. Everybody has the same born day. Everybody is 1 year old when they're born. And everybody has the same born day. Why? Because that's their way of saying that before you were born, you were already alive. See, y'all trying to make this thing of, you trying to take away women's choice and women's right. No. This is agreed upon worldwide, that if you're going to be a human being, you have to be a human being in the womb. You might not like my saying it, and you might think that it's me being extremely conservative, but that's how natural law works, right? If a shark is born, it's because it was already alive in the womb. If a dolphin is born, it's because it was already alive in the womb. Watch this. If a bird is born, it's because it was already alive I don't know if it'd be the womb, but it'd be in the womb, and then as it comes out, it was alive in the egg. The mama bird is not sitting on something that's not alive until it hatches. The mama bird is sitting on top of a live chick. Just because you haven't seen the chick come out of the egg yet does not mean that the chick has not had an experience. That's why the chick speaks the language of his mama. You said most Asian countries say you're 1 year old. Okay, so a lot of Asian countries. Thank you for the correction, babe. Right? You said they recognize the spiritual significance of life. Well, the spiritual, of course, yes. And even the physical. Even your soul, you are already, watch this, if we go further back into ancient times, your Bible agrees with others because others agree with your Bible, which is what? You go further back, and before your mother and father knew you or knew each other, you were already known. Even people who believe in destiny, you're saying that before somebody's born, we already should make way for their destiny. Even if you believe it's predestined in predestiny, that means that you, right, which really, so you're saying that somebody, it's already guaranteed, they can't change anything, they have no free will, they're going to become this no matter what they say, no matter what they do, no matter how much you fight it, you might as well not fight it, you're going to become this. Well, then you're still saying that you believe that that person, before their mother and father even existed, already had a destiny. That's what you're telling me. So this weird thing that you're trying to come into now to say, oh no, I get to choose if this child is in fact a child. No, what you're saying is that you want the right to go ahead and go against common law, which says that thou shalt not murder, just like the 10 Commandments say, thou shalt not murder, right? Commandment number 7. It's already been around for a long time. It's been established by the law that was given to the Negro. You said the Most says he knew you. Yeah, that's right. The Most High says he knew you before the foundation of the world. This means that you were already in his mind, spiritually, physically, emotionally, psychologically, your soul ties, all that. He already knew everything about you. The reason why it says it, one of our affirmations, right? Romans chapter 8, verse 28. I'm trying to use the wrong verse. Sorry. I'm trying to say the suffering of this present time. That's Romans 8:18. I got to go through them in my head. Romans 8:1, Romans 8:11, Romans 8:18, Romans 8:19, Romans 8:28. All things, there we go. All things work together. That mental map is something else, boy. I love that mental map. All things work together for right lawful standing, or for tabah, or for morality, or what you guys still call good. All things work together for tabah, towards those who love Elohim and are called, invited according to his purpose. Right? How does that work? Because he's in the past, the present, and the future. So he doesn't move. You're in this thing where you're just only thinking, I'm going to tomorrow, right? And that's it. You do your little walk. I'm going to tomorrow. But he's standing in past, present, and future. And so when you do something yesterday, he's already in your today, being like, we're going to do this, and say, oh man, you know what, they only realize how much that yesterday's going to mess them up. They could be taken out for that. I'm going to go ahead and shift there tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after. And here it is, you walk into today, worried about what's going to happen today. He's already shifted everything around because of your mistake, especially if you repented. Especially if you repented. Right? He's already decided, I'm going to go ahead and move these things for you, right? But this is how the Negro thinks. But see, it was reverse engineered to where now they put in the word, right? So now you get to predestined. You get out of Romans 8:28. It shifts your thought process. You hear this word predestined. And those he foreknew, he also predestined. But the word foreknew means progenikos. So those who he prognosticated to, those who he gave a forecast to, he also put you first. He also made you the apple of his eye. That's what that means. It doesn't mean that you have no choice. But people have come up with a whole theology on predestiny, haven't they? You have a whole bunch of people that will fight you and say, you know what? Yah has some people that he created them to be evil. You have people still teaching that same nonsense. This is truth. See, if I don't teach you what everybody else says you're supposed to believe in, then what they say is they say, oh, you see, Pastor Kofi, he's just a reverse racist, or he's somebody we shouldn't bring in here, or he's not going to tell you the truth. No, I'm telling you the truth. This is why we're ostracized. You think they hated MLK? I'm going to say that again because some of you don't believe that they did. But you think that they hated MLK and took MLK's life? Or attempted to, and then when they couldn't get it done, smothered him with a pillow in his hospital bed? You think they did that to him because they loved him? You think they did that because he was telling lies? Or you think they did that because of the same reason they tried to take Yehoshaphat's life? Remember, I know you're taught that Yehoshaphat, he was somebody who just, he laid down his life, and that means that nobody wanted something, and the religious leaders, they didn't know who he was. But no, the religious leaders were upset that their followers were becoming his followers. That's what your Bible tells you. And so they started to plan. When they realized that their people left them and came and listened to him, that's when he had to go. When the system that they were under, that was serving them well and making them money, because they had people that were poor in spirit and they wouldn't allow them to come out of it, and Yehoshaphat comes and says, well, blessed are the poor in spirit, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to you too. Nobody told you that? And they said, oh, this joker a problem. How you doing, Brother Richard? Right? When he said, man, you think you're poor, but really are, well, he didn't say, I'm sorry, that's Revelation chapter 2. He did tell people, though, that you think you're poor in a sense, right? You know, that, hey, you're not supposed to touch this person. You know, healing people. This is one of the reasons why they said, I promise you, we're going to get to some of this stuff in Negro land and all that. I know, just hear me. The Holy Spirit, she's taking over. Look, come on, somebody. When they said that he did things for the devil, you know they were doing the reverse engineering thing. They had taken what was Yah's word, Yah's law, and they had started making it like their father's traditions. What do you mean, Pastor Kofi? All right, watch this. Their father said, right, don't touch, so the law said basically be careful about touching things that have lost their lives, right? Yehoshaphat is healing the sick. Yehoshaphat is reviving those who have lost their life. They're not supposed to touch those who are in the grave. They're not supposed to touch those with leprosy. They're not supposed to touch those that are blind. They're not supposed to touch those who can't speak. Right? This is why you treat people like they're dumb today. When you say somebody's dumb, you think they're stupid, but they treated them like they were stupid. They ostracized them because they had a problem. Right? They weren't supposed to help. They were not supposed to help people. I'm trying to help you, my brother. I'm trying to help you, my sis. Look, they were not supposed to help. Remember what you call the story of the Good Samaritan? Or sorry, the Good Samaritan? I'm trying to get my thes and these together. I'm sorry, excuse me. Right? But what they call the Good Samaritan, and two of them didn't touch him because they thought he might be dead. But one came and touched him and found out he was alive. The two that touched him by their religiosity were more righteous than the one who saved his life. But Yehoshaphat said, which one was his neighbor? And the ones that hate Samaritans still had to grind their teeth and say, I guess the one that saved him. Right? They didn't even want to say the Samaritan. Because Samaritans were dogs. They were half-breeds. They weren't Israel enough. But they were the ones that made sure a life was saved. See, the reverse engineered mindset will have you believing to yourself that you're not even supposed to help your brother or sister because they don't have life, or because they're losing something, or because they're not in the position you are. Be careful. This is why we gotta work on this, the reverse engineering of the Negro. We got to reverse engineer this thing for ourselves. They reverse engineered it. We got to reverse engineer it, but take it back to its original intent. That's called salvaging or salvation. We must work out our own salvation, Israel. Now, I know that scripture's talking about your personal salvation, right? But your nation needs to be salvaged. The word needs to go back to what it was. The word is what it is, but we've been reading stuff that isn't what the word is. That means that we have to salvage our hearts. We have to salvage our minds. We have to salvage our literature. We have to salvage our language. We have to go back. What did that actually mean? You see what I'm saying? Why is it that we're still treating people like they're dumb? Well, if they're dumb, teach them how to speak. That's miraculous to the world, because to the world it doesn't make sense that somebody who's dumb can't speak. Teach them. You have the power. Right? Now, if somebody dumb doesn't want to speak, that's different. But if somebody dumb wants to be healed and wants to be able to speak, then teach them. Tell them how to speak. If somebody's blind and they wish to be able to see, guess what? It's possible. We've been taught to think that something's too improbable so that it becomes impossible. But if Yah says, with Yah or with Yahshua, all things are possible as long as it be his will. Well, if it be his will that what he says is possible is not only probable, but he's given the provision for it, then you might as well stop trying to improvise and just go ahead and deal with the provision he's given. You don't need to improvise when he improvised. I know I'm making up words. Y'all know how black preachers do, right? I know. You don't have to improvise when he improvised. He already put it in you. The provision, provised. It's improvised. It's in you. You keep trying to improvise. How can I figure out how I'm going to make provision? How can I do this? You're sitting up there doing stuff that don't make sense. You're in situations right now. Somebody listening to the sound of my voice right now. You got yourself into a situation and you're like, why am I even doing this? I can't stand this. I don't like these people. I don't like doing this. I'm going out my way now. Like, this is getting worse and blah, blah. Right? You attach yourself to stuff and you're trying to improvise when y'all already improvised. He gave you the gift and it's your gift that will bring you before great men. But you're trying to make great wealth without making sure that first you have a great gift. If you have a great gift and come before great men, the great men might have the great wealth. That's why it says give and it shall be given unto thee. Why are you so busy trying to take and hope that you can improvise when he says you already have something on the inside? Use it, develop it, execute it, give it out, and watch people start to give back to you. And there's more of them than there is of you. Come on, rap fans, 1v20 versus 20v1, right? There's more of them out there than there is of you. So if I give my gift and I keep giving it out and I develop it, somebody's going to be out there. And even if it's only 20 people that are out there, 20 people can bless the one. And that means what I give to 20, when 20 give to me, it's greater than what I gave. That's how that works. You have a gift that can touch 100. You're like, oh, well, I only got 100. Develop the 100. If you can get 100 people to regularly give you something every month, you blessed. You broke the code. It's not that difficult, fam. Like, it's difficult as far as dedication and discipleship, but fam, it's not really as difficult as what they're telling you. If you got 100 people that are willing to bless you with something, then develop relationship with 100. Eventually, the 100 will talk to others, and it'll become 2 and 400 and 800 and 1600 and 3200 and 6400, and before you know, right? What is next? 1,200, 800. I don't know if I'm in the ballpark, whatever. But it'll keep doubling up. It'll keep growing exponentially. But all you got to do is hang in there. How you got 100 people that are ready to go, and you say, "Yeah, but I'm gonna go ahead and do this thing that doesn't have anything to do with my gift." No wonder you're frustrated. That's not because Yah said. That's not because the devil took. That's because you made a decision. Love you, but that's because you made a decision. You didn't have to decide that. You didn't have to give up what Yah said. Yah told you move like this. You decided to move another way. Now you're sitting up there upset talking about, I can't believe it, and Yah must not really be there, and this really can't be working out. And now you start blaming the people of Yah. Well, if people were really my friend, they step in line with me, and nobody's agreeing, and blah, blah. You hear people saying all this stuff, and I'll be listening sometimes, and I'm just like, wait a minute, what did Yah say? You've been so reverse engineered that you don't even care about, did Yah say it? Did he tell you to move like that? Did he tell you to wear that? Did he tell you to work for that person? Did he tell you that's what your business is supposed to be? Did he tell you that's what your children supposed to be? They're talking about, I want to have 25 children. I want to have 30 children. I want to have 10 children. I want to have 15 children. Did y'all say that? I only want to have 2 children. I ended up with 5. Yeah, what did you consult him? Did she come down and have a conversation? Did the angel come to you and tell you this is how much you're going to have? Or is that just you? Are you working in what you have? I'm going to say, you know what? Okay. I got to be careful because I don't want, there's somebody, if I say this, I know a few of y'all in your situation, you'll take it the wrong way. Holy Spirit said we're not ready to go. Bro. Okay. Amen. 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 Right? Well, hopefully you got the message. And what the Holy Spirit was saying there, right? See, we've been reverse engineering so much we don't even recognize what's going on. You think that you're supposed to tell, you think that you're supposed to do whatever you want to do and the Most High is supposed to agree with it. That's not how that works. For this last Mother's Day, we were able to bless some mothers and make sure we sent some stuff to some mothers, and they don't have physical children. And somebody said, that don't even make sense. Why would you, they think that we're doing a bad thing, like when people give for Father's Day or whatever, and people will be like, well, we'll celebrate the mother on Father's Day too. And people say, you shouldn't do that. See, and why are you giving mothers stuff when they don't have physical children? Well, the Bible says that just because you don't have a physical child, it doesn't mean that you're not a mama. It says if you raise babies up and you help and you provide and you nurture and you protect, it says you're a mama too. Right? But somebody told you that you can't be a mother because it didn't necessarily come out your womb. Do you know that really technically, I'm talking about spiritually now, everybody's a mama? Because if Yah gives me a seed, if he gives me a word, if he gives me the zarah, then I'm impregnated with something in the spirit, and it's got to be manifest. So even though I've never pushed in the physical, I don't know what that is. I don't want that pain, and I respect every mama in here that had to do that. I'm not trying to say that men and mothers, but what I'm trying to say in the spirit is that I know what it is sometimes to have had to squat and try to sit down, and I know what it is to have the weight of people so much and to be on your knees praying for other people and praying for your family and getting up and you're struggling because you got so much on you, but something's got to be birthed out, and you're praying and you're crying out and you're taking the spiritual what is that? You're supposed to take your vitamins and minerals, right? Your prenatal vitamins. You're taking all that stuff, you're doing all that, and you're taking all these things, and you're praying for people, and you're crying, and you're pushing. And then finally, when you see your child, finally, when you see a member, finally, when you see somebody doing what you do, you celebrate, right? You had to fast. You couldn't even eat for a while. You were on them ice chips. You were hoping that you could make it at a natural birth. You didn't want them to be drugged through the situation. Sometimes you couldn't help it. You had to have a little something to help you with it. It's not even right, but you just, in order to get this there, you couldn't handle it on your own. It was too much pain and too much anguish and too much anxiety. You gotta get to a place where you recognize who you are and whose you are. How you doing, Brother Ali? We have to get to this place where we recognize who we are and whose we are. How you doing, Essential Faith? And thank everybody for being on. If you're on, if you're coming from the podcast, if you're on Clapper, if you're on if you're on Clapper, if you're on TikTok, if you're on Facebook, or if you're on YouTube, we got a bunch of platforms going today simultaneously. Praise God for everybody. How you doing, Sonia? Or Sania? Sania, is it Sania? Sanaya? How you doing? And thanks for being on. You got to get to this place. Did I say hello, Sister Joy? How you doing? Right? You got to recognize that a lot of stuff has been reverse engineered, and we don't think in our culture. Right? Once again, reverse engineering the Negro is what I've been sent with, the message I've been sent with today. Who is the Negro? And all this stuff we've been talking about, I think we've made it clear, but I didn't come right out and say it. So who is the Negro? Negro. How you doing, Prophet Yomi? Who is this Negro? Right? The Negro in history and in our story does not mean the black man. I know that it's easy because people go, well, Negro in Espanol, but see, what you don't recognize is that Spanish is Spanish, just like it's English. You must recognize that Spain has been less under its own tutelage and less under its own authority than it has been under the tutelage and authority of others, including its language. So just like you speak Anglo-ish, the Anglos were off when William the Conqueror came on, and then Anglo-ish became the language of the poor. That's why you speak 40% French if you speak English. That's why you speak more percentages of other languages than you do Anglo. There's very little Anglo left, right? People don't speak Anglo. That's where you speak Anglo-ish. The people are Anglo-ish because there's really not Anglo people anymore. They were off, and they were forced to be able to become slaves, and that word that rhymes with great was done to them and things of that nature, just like it was done to you. And so when you talk about somebody who says, man, they need to speak English like we speak English, what is English? I'm working with spelling heavy right now with my son. Everywhere we go, son, how do you spell this? How do you spell this? You know, we're finding some interesting things to be able to get into. We started doing the IGH words, right? Because that can be monsters, right? So we started going, spell night. Night as the sky. Spell tight. All right. Spell nights, but with somebody who fights. What do you mean? Well, it's got a silent K, but here, a knight, takes somebody's life. So think K for that word that rhymes with will. Take K and then put it at the front of it. Oh, okay, cool. And then we'll say, okay, cool. Well, now let's talk about day. You know how to spell day, right? Yeah, D-A-Y. Well, let's spell Sunday. Okay, cool. Sunday, S-U-N-D-A-Y. Okay, so spell Sunday night. Oh, okay, cool. I got it. And he goes, oh, yeah, right? And then go through. So we've been doing this and just putting the stuff out there over and over again, and we drilling it, right? And going through these drills, English is a horrible language. It doesn't make sense because there's a bunch of languages put together. There's no rhyme or reason to it. There's no rhyme or reason to it, right? There's no like in our culture, there's no such thing as a silent character, but in their culture, they spell words, they're spells, and so they have silent letters. It's very odd, right? People who speak other languages will tell you that English is one of the hardest languages to learn because it does not make sense. And then when people misspell it, right, they'll say you're saying it wrong. But it's like, no, you're not saying it wrong. Like, for example, we were trying to do a simple one, right? A simple one, got him. We were like, spell water. And I tried my best to say water, but water, right? Now, in Jamaica, you say water. It just makes sense, W-A-T-A. Somebody would say that's wrong, but it actually makes more sense than water. Why? Because they would say spell water. Okay, W-A-T-E-R. But technically, phonetically, you could spell it W-E-T-U-R. Somebody said, no, that's wetter. But also, wet can be like kind of wa, or even wa could be, sorry, I said E, W-O-T-E-T-U-R. Because that's what because we were working on phonetic sounds. And I had to stop telling him, I had to start teaching him, hey, phonetics except in this case is an exception. Phonetics except in this case is an exception. Phonetics except in this case is an exception. See, water, you can say, well, the A makes it makes an A or A, so it should be water. Water, but we say water, right? It's not even the same thing. Or water. Some people say water, right? That's W-U-T-U-R, right? There's a lot of stuff going on, right? But in this stuff, it's a lot of languages, a lot of different things that are there. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't have proper assembly. But it's because somebody has taken a bunch of different things, has colonized a bunch of people, has reverse engineered it, and then they put all these weird rules out. Like I've been trying to do this one to try and catch up on, if I say I'm supposed to say the allegory, but I'm supposed to say the commandment. Why? Because the first letter is a vowel sound. Not a vowel, but a vowel sound or a consonant sound. So that's when you say the or the. Now I think that's new, but still, right? It's something ridiculous, but what's the rhyme or reason for it? There is none. Somebody's making it up. And somebody wants to be able to say, hey, this is what's now we call appropriate. We've taken it for ourselves. So the same thing for the Negro. The Negro is if you talk about who the Negro actually is, you become inappropriate because the Negro, once again, doesn't mean black. And even in Spanish, right, the Spanish, who did they speak like? They spoke like their masters. They spoke like their owners sometimes. They spoke like their teachers. They spoke like who disciplined them. They spoke like the people who ruled over them. Who ruled over them? For thousands of years, the Carthaginians. Where were the Carthaginians from? North Africa, East Africa, and when I say East Africa, I mean Israel as well. And they used the alphabet. They used the alphabet, rather, or the alphabet. They used Hebrew characters. And they also had, then later on, right after the Greeks and the Romans were dealing with Spain, who takes over again? Moors, Africans. And this time you have West Africans. And by the way, West Africans called themselves Negroes before anybody else used the term. A Negro is actually one of the most, or Negro, where Negro is one of the most ancient West African terms for a branch or a nation of people. Did you know that? So before it even became what we're going to talk about today, if you were a Negro, you were West African. Now anybody who looks Negro, West African, gets called it, including I should open up your thoughts on some of this stuff, because that means also then that the Native Americans were called Negroes because they had Negroid features. It doesn't mean they all had locks, but they had Negroid features. The Khalifa people, California, named after black folk, Negroes, Negroid features. Anakitawiya, who you call Cherokee, they were called to be Negroes, Anybody who had Negroid features, they were Negroes. Yes, in Brazil, when they came there and they found them, what did they call them? Negro or Negro, right? They had Negroid features, but they were not saying that they were West African, or they weren't saying that they were West African only at this point, because now what's happened is when you're talking about the colonization, well, what did the colonized people think a Negro was? Who were the Negroes that were different? Because once again, in Spain, they made a distinction. They knew that there were Marron people, that's brown folk, but then they said there's Negro, and they didn't mean just dark-skinned folk, even though a lot of us were dark-skinned. But these Negros, or these Negroes, according to them, right, during the Spanish Inquisition, and then with Portugal as well, they said these Negroes were doing some interesting things. I'd just like to be able to share a few of them with you, if you don't mind, right? They said these Negroes were swarthy. What does swarthy mean? S-W-A-R-T-H-Y. What does swarthy mean? If somebody were to say you were swarthy, oh, no problem, thank you. It means you're dark skinned. Come on. I'm swarthy. And I'm not even extremely swarthy, but I'm swarthy. No, I guess I qualify as swarthy. I'm swarthy. Right? I know they have, see, you're coming from somebody else's prism, so you know they mean they got shades of us too. But even by their definition, I would be considered to be swarthy, right? They said these people were swarthy. They said they had locks in their hair. They're talking about the Negro, not every African, not every black person, not every black Spanish mixed person. They're talking about the Negro. It's important that we catch this. When you say somebody's Negro, it's important that you catch this. Who are they talking about at this time, right? Not just talking about in general. Not talking about, once again, when they reverse engineered it. We're talking about in that time. If somebody had said, I'm looking for a Negro or a Negro, this is what they're looking for. This, by the way, means that Christopher Columbus, when he says he found the Negroes he was looking for, they got to look this way too. How you doing, Minister Tanner? So they're swarthy. These Negroes were swarthy. All right, so we can't do this weird thing that we'll be trying to say, because where they say, well, you know, it could be, no. These Negroes were swarthy. These Negroes that they talk about, they had locks. It says these Negroes were attracted to women. Now, why do you think they would say these Negroes were attracted to women? Come on, family, help me out now. Why do you think that they said these Negroes were attracted to women? Why was that such a big deal? Why would they put that in there? See, culture pops up. They be telling the truth all the time. It tells that I'm not. We're going to be inappropriate here because we're not going to let them appropriate our culture. Right. Because you could be a Spanish man and be attracted to another man while even having a wife. You just had to be on the DL. But these Negroes that they talk about, it seemed like they were very much into women. They had one wife. They were faithful, hopefully. I'm not going to act like every Negro was always faithful. But let's just be honest, right? That was something that was a big deal to them. When they looked at them and they compared them to themselves, they said, they're swarthy. They got locks. Said they're faithful to their women. Here's another one. It said that they read the Torah. Tanakh in our culture, but the Torah. Who reads the Torah? Not Moreno, not just if you're brown, not if you're just labeled as black or these dark people, not just because you're African. It said these Negroes specifically, they read the Torah. And they kept it. How you doing, Black Jeans? Thanks for being part of the community. That's what they said. This is not according to Kofi. They're telling you what a Negro is. When you talk about Negro, you got to figure out who they're talking about. Come on, Negro. You don't want to be called Negro. They say, don't call me a Negro no more. Some of y'all don't want to be called African no more. Some of you don't want to be called Native American at all. You don't want to be called Israel. You just say, hey, make me a human being, this and that. Yes, I understand you're a human being, but humans have families, and we have a Negro family. It doesn't mean that I'm saying I'm better than you because of the color of my skin. What I'm saying is, though, I take care of my family. If you marry into my family, then yes, by definition, you're a Negro as well. But here what I'm saying is that if you're not part of my family, first things first, my first responsibility is to my people, to my nation. If you honor the ways, if you stop being a stranger, you're grafted into this, and you are my family. You are my brother. Right? You are my sister. right? But I still take care of my family first. So a lot of them cats, was by. We look at it now, we go, Cesare Borgia, oh my greatness, he was messing with women, he was messing with men, and blah, blah, and this and that, or whatever, but that was the norm. Especially if you had, well, to put it like this, if you could afford it. It's kind of like a lot of stuff. A lot of cats would do a lot of stuff if they could afford to do so. Some of y'all should be thankful that y'all didn't let you blow up before you got your character together, because some of y'all would have been doing some craziness. You look at your brother and sister now and be like, I can't believe Pastor so-and-so did. I can't believe Apostle so-and-so did. I can't believe that Diddy did. I can't believe. Did you hear what so-and-so might have been doing? Do you realize what R. Kelly is doing? Let's be honest. Some of y'all cats, if y'all had money, you would be Drake on steroids. Let's just keep it a buck. Some of you needed to be where you were. Some of you were praying for stuff that y'all was like, I can't release that, because if I release that thing, they're going to get what they want, and they're going to find that real quick, just like Israel did. You ain't want a king in the first place. You ain't want that money. You weren't ready for that. You weren't ready for that responsibility. You weren't ready for that family. Some of you should be thankful that y'all made you wait a little bit, and that you kept waiting on him, so that finally when you got yourself mature enough and he started to open your eyes to certain things, you were able to handle them. See, some brothers, the reason why some brothers running around with 17 wives, and trying to tell you why the Bible or why the Quran and why everything else will allow them to do so, why now they got to change African culture as if all African cultures believed you were supposed to have multiple wives, and the people who had multiple wives were the kings, and they allowed it, and the people would go ahead and allow it, just saying to themselves, well, at the end of the day, I guess it means he's married to different people, and therefore our kingdom's expanding, and it means we'll be at peace, so they just rolled with it. But you forget, everybody can't afford 2 wives, even on a basic level. Come on, brother. Right? Like, in those situations that you're talking about, those brothers who had multiple wives, it's not biblical, by the way, but those brothers who had multiple wives, you're supposed to be able to take care of them. Emotionally, you try, but you're not going to be able to if you have more than one wife. Just keep it in the buck. But you're supposed to try and take care of them financially, bare minimum. And all the babies that they have. And if they're going to take care of your house, matter of fact, there's some beliefs that say that each wife has to have a separate house, or better have at least a separate section of the house. And she should have her own businesses and things as well. Right? You can't even take care of one. Some of you talking about you want 75. Can't even be faithful to one. You know, even though the king could have multiple wives, the king was still supposed to be disciplined. If he had 5 wives, this is crazy talk for our culture, but I just want to throw this out here because some of y'all brothers are trying to bring this stuff in. Even if he had 5 wives, he couldn't go out and just have sex with somebody who wasn't his wife. It was still considered to be cheating. They still got to be, I know y'all think he was just out here doing whatever. No, like there's still rules, right? Even though it's wrong, in that sense, they still had rules. They still had laws for their community that the king had to abide by. If he didn't follow the law, he's not the king. That's how that works. You want to be a king under the king. He's the king of the kings. But you can't be faithful to one. You don't even know love language for one. You can be mad at me all you want. You don't know the love language for one wife. What's your wife's love language? You call her, what y'all be calling these sisters that have a gold digger? You call her a gold digger. What if her love language is gifts? And she's not necessarily looking for gold. She's just looking for you. Could you give me a flower every once in a while? Could you give me a card every day? Could you, if you see some pebbles on the road that are different colors, could you go get a glass cup from the Dollar Tree and put them in there or whatever, and put a couple of frilly things on the side? Can you take me out somewhere where I can go ahead and get flowers? That'd be a gift. What if her love language is quality time? I don't even care how often you spend time with me. Give me 2 hours a week, but just make sure those 2 hours I feel like there's nobody like me. You talking about you want 5 and you don't know how to deal with 1? What if her love language is acts of service? She'll stop yelling at you if you just do what she asks you to do. That's what the honey-do list is for. Just do what's on the list and your honey will be sweet. That's a word right there. What did I just say? Holy Spirit, run that back. What was that? That's what the honey-do list is for. Right? If you do the things that are on the list, then your honey will be sweet. My greatness. Come on, Holy Spirit. Have your way. Right? That's acts of service. So if your wife is looking for actions, and that's her number one love language, then do acts. Some of y'all brothers have wives, watch this, that you call clingy. And the reality is, as a man, that's what you should want. Because guess what her love language more likely is? It's physical touch. So if she's clingy and she always want to be up on you, that means that she's only a little bit of clinginess away at any moment to getting down with what, you know, we as men want to get down with. Talking about she always clingy. You better hold her hand in the mall. Then mess around and have some man or some woman, this is what be happening now with a lot of sisters too, is that now you won't give her nothing, and now men ain't messing with her because they not going to mess with your woman. But now here comes another woman, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, she starts getting physical touch from somebody else. All of a sudden, they holding hands. All of a sudden, they hugging up. Next thing you know. And now you're mad at her when you could have gave her. I'm not saying she should go. I'm not making an excuse. I'm just saying, if you already got it, you might as well give her the physical touch. Give her the massage that leads to a little something, something. Come on, baby boy. I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to show you. Right? Hold her hand out in public. Come up behind her every once in a while, just in the middle of the grocery store, just to make sure that she sees that you would love her like that, and just put your arms around her. I ain't lying. What if words of affirmation is her thing? Speak life into her. And by the way, everybody needs all five at some point, but usually you have a 1A and a 1B, right? Speak life into her if words of affirmation. You know, a lot of your sisters, a lot of these sisters, a lot of these, your wives, and the ones that are qualified to be wives, they keep talking about they want their husband to teach them the word. Guess what? Words of affirmation. And watch this. She's already telling you this is the word she wants you to speak. Come on, somebody catch this. Don't miss it. She's already telling you. See, you've been reverse engineered. You've gone away from what the Negro stood for. She's already telling you, take me back to the Negro lineage. She said, take me to the king. She said, just give me your word. Give me what the Bible says. Help me to be baptized. Help me to see what I'm supposed to say. Help me with the community. Help me to be able to speak our language correctly again. That's under words of affirmation. She right there, she telling you. You sitting up there, well, I don't know, I'm not that great at poetry and stuff like that. You got songs for that. I'm just trying to help. All right, I'll leave it alone. Holy Spirit says if they ain't got it, they ain't got it. Okay, look, I'm trying to help somebody, right? But the Negro, we were into these things. Matter of fact, the Negro, going back to when we were in Portugal, the Negro would be on the corner in a hoodie. This is what they said. The Negro would be on the corner with a hoodie on, putting poetry over music. Now, last time I checked, I seen a lot of cats on the corner with hoods on, all over the world, by the way, scattered. A lot of cats with hoods on, putting lyrics over music. Now you call that hip hop, acting like hip hop is something new. That's a name that you know a couple of people put together and then somebody packaged for you to make sure that they could sell it to you and reverse engineer even what hip hop was supposed to stand for in the first place. But we was hip hop, true hip hop. We was doing that because we're Negroes. Negroes developed hip hop when we were dealing with being in Spain and in Portugal around the time, right before the time of the Spanish Inquisition. And during the Spanish Inquisition, it says the first people that they made forced to convert and then sold into slavery and took their children away from them and forced them to be enslaved and then started forcing them to have children by men that they didn't want to have so that these children, these Negroes, would start looking like them and they could go ahead and have them to capitulate to Catholicism. It says the first people they did that with was Negroes. Go look up the Spanish Inquisition. First people that they did that to were sometimes they'll say they were Jews, but they won't tell you what kind of Jews they were. And by the way, they didn't even use the term Jew when they originally wrote it. They do it in new versions of the writings. But watch this. When you read that, you'll see a term called Sephardic. Because there's the Ashkenazi. That comes out of Japheth. There's the Khazarian. They also come out of Japheth. And then there's the Sephardic, who comes out of Shem. And if you're Shemitic, you can't hate yourself. Now watch this. They've reverse engineered it to where they get you to believe, because I want you to hear this. As much as many of us would consider many Ashkenazi and many Khazarian and many Jewish folk to be the ops, to be the enemy, real talk, you have also been taught to hate them because they hold on to certain things that should be yours. See, I don't have a hating bone in my body. I don't hate the Khazarian or the Ashkenazi. I don't hate them. I'm not angry about them. I'm not racist towards them. I'm not. Right? At the same time, and so it helps me to recognize that some of the things they do are actually lawful. Many things aren't, but some are. And they know the value of it. They get certain things out of, for example, they know what it is to give to their community first always. If you give them $1, that dollar goes around their community 40, 50, 60 times before it leaves. When we get $1, first of all, when we get our dollars, we don't even get it from our community. And then once we get it, since we didn't receive it from our community, we have no loyalty towards our community, we take it and we put it somewhere else. That's why it's important these businesses get built. Because if your money comes from the businesses of your community, your money goes right back into where you got it from. A lot of people don't recognize that, right? Israel, when we did business with other people, it's because, okay, fine, there are certain things that maybe we want that we don't have within ourselves. But if we have the ability to have this within ourselves, why would we get it from someone else? It doesn't make sense for generational wealth. If somebody's part of your family, if let's say you have children, your sister has children, your brother has children, right? And all of you have businesses, and all of you raise babies to where your babies have businesses. Why wouldn't you go and give to your nephew's business first before giving to Amazon or to Walmart? You know why? You do that? Why you do that is because you don't get anything from them. You never got anything from yourselves, right? Like your parents provided, right? But your parents didn't provide. Like your parents provided basically to kick you out the house. A lot of us, let's be honest. Right? I don't know if your parents are the same, but many parents that I've heard of, dealt with, my grandparents, my parents, etc. Right? Our parents raised us to get up out the house. A lot of our parents messed up our credit before we left. A lot of our parents, once we left, weren't really trying to have like really close, meaningful relationships. Right? They did their duty. A lot of them didn't have time to do the love stuff and to do the nurturing and the caring. They were just like, hey, I can at least make sure that you have an opportunity to get out of here, and then finally I'll get what I deserved a long time ago, which maybe I can get some security, maybe I can get some affection, maybe I can get some sleep, maybe I don't have to work 2-3 jobs anymore. That's where they came from, right? And so you had all these people that were raised like this, and they raised up a generation to do the same thing and the same thing and the same thing, no loyalty. And this is why you don't nurture your parents. This is why now the Negro has started to do what the world does. The Negro has started to put their parents inside the nursing home. And I'll be honest with you, my mother was put inside the nursing home. My father was working 2.5 jobs. We had a nurse at the house. We had before that we had a nurse at the house that he was paying, his job was paying for, his insurance was paying for. My sister and I, once we got home from school, the nurse left, we took care of Mama. Right, I put her in the shower. My sister would be the one to wash her. My sister would be the one if she needed to be changed, which sometimes happened, depending on how she was feeling. She had a hospital bed next to her actual bed, so she felt like she could get in her bed fine. But a lot of times she had to be in her hospital bed that was in the house. Right, that was a big deal back in the 90s. That was unheard of. My father was working his behind off to make sure these things were happening. He had turned his van. He had a '77 Camaro. All of a sudden, one day he got rid of that, came home with a deuce in the quarter. He was like, what's going on? But didn't know he was transitioning, came home with a van. All of a sudden, 2 months in, the van had no seats in the middle of it. It was a wheelchair lift in there, right? His whole responsibility was to take care of his wife. And we did the same thing with our mama up until basically our mother started with multiple sclerosis. Sometimes it attacks your nervous system, attacks your brain, and She started forgetting things. She started yelling. She started like trying to escape. She couldn't even walk, but somehow, some way, we wake up in the middle of the night and she's yelling at us as we're trying to like pick her up and try to get her back in the house, and she's screaming through the apartment hallways and stuff. So eventually, you know, we had to look. My father did what he thought was best, and it's his wife. And at the end of the day, I don't even disagree with his decision. Right? He had to take care of his wife. He did what he thought was necessary. Right? And this is where my heart started. I really started to pick up and try to get into nursing homes and help out, because that was the first like really big thing that I took personally, because I recall what it was to be a young boy coming to visit your mom, and then being in the military, coming and visit your mom and seeing your mom have bed sores. And when we were children, she never had bed sores. All you gotta do is make sure somebody's turned over, right? But when we were children, she never had bed sores. And when she was at our house, all of a sudden we put her somewhere. I'm hearing my father yell and cuss and fuss, and I didn't even know. I thought like it was just a natural thing. As a child, I was like, okay, I guess she has bed sores. I guess it's something that happens, but it doesn't happen unless somebody didn't take care of you, you know? So yeah, I'd see these things with my mom, never seen them before and stuff, couldn't touch them. And she'd be freaking out. And then, of course, she still couldn't remember who you were, different things. So there's a lot of stuff I get. But imagine if we had a society, and now imagine, especially too, if I knew a elder Amma at the time, and somebody who would say, you know, you can take this for memory. You can give her this for her nervous system. You can give her this for blood flow. You know, have her get out in the sun a lot more. Right? She's inside all day. Could have just taken her to the balcony. Could have taken her outside, and you know, have her go to. She likes to go swimming and stuff. Could have taken her to this morning, but you don't know, right? And then on top of that, we're going to school. I could have been homeschooled. I could have been making sure that, you know, taking care of mama, this and that. Like, there's things that we got away from in our community because we were sold into slavery. Because when we were sold into slavery, they don't talk about this because they only want you to think about the when they talk about the transatlantic slave trade, they don't want to tell you about the fact that that triangular slave trade, and then also the Arabics, what we now call Arabic, the Arabic portion of the slave trade. They don't want to tell you about the fact that in order to be enslaved, you had to give up your religion. Everybody in the Roman Catholic Church, when they started enslaving folk, they had people coming to the Americas and picking up slaves before the 1600s, in the 1500s. You know, Spain was dealing with slavery and asked permission. In 1491, they finally defeated in Spain the last great Moorish king. In 1492, Christopher Columbus sails the ocean blue. 1493, the doctrine of discovery becomes official. It had already been around for 41 years, but it becomes official in 1493. Right? Why is that a big deal? That means Queen Isabel finishes destroying everybody who's Moorish and getting them out, right? Then she keeps some of them as slaves and goes to the Pope and asks for permission to go and find slaves, right? To find Negroes. They weren't looking for Africans only. They went looking for Negroes. This is why they went to West Africa, because West Africa eventually becomes known as Negro land, correct? Because they were looking for scattered Israelites. And then when you look in Negro land and when you look in Guinea, you will discover around the N and the word Guinea. But if you keep on looking even further, you'll discover that there are scattered Israelites there, and there is the kingdom of Judah. It's right on the map. That map was used into the 1800s before it was changed again when they started having countries and new territories by new corporations. And when Christopher Columbus goes over, he says, hey, I can bring a Hebrew interpreter so we can get Negro slaves. So they were looking for West Africans who were the same people that were Negroes that they had started enslaving during the Spanish Inquisition. And then they said that they went over and brought a Hebrew interpreter with them to find more Negroes. In your mind, you think the only thing that they were looking for was land. But you got to recognize, once again, slaves are property. This is why you had to have the doctrine of discovery. The doctrine of discovery says that if there's not a white Roman Catholic male who has found that place or lives in that place, then that place can go ahead and be founded. It can be found. Real talk. It can be founded. It can be discovered, uncovered. That's all. That's what the doctrine of discovery does. So you have 1491, Christopher Columbus I'm sorry, 1491, Moorish king is gone, and they asked permission for the Pope to go get slaves. Pope is like, as long as you get me slaves, it's all gravy, right? 1492, Christopher Columbus sails the ocean blue. 1493, Doctrine of Discovery. If you catch that and you see what happened with the Negro, they were looking for Negroes. Once again, just like they talk about with Christ, they try to say, when it comes to Yahshua HaMashiach, oh yeah, nobody knew who he was. Nobody knew that he was the Messiah. No, that's not true. They didn't like the fact they were looking for him specifically because he was taking away their clientele. He was taking away their power. Well, now we can't say, we know for a fact that Christopher Columbus, he had sailed around Africa with Africans from at least 1482. We know this because he has a journal that says that he had sailed with Africans and learned that they had a way of getting from Africa over to South America, and Africa over to the Caribbean, and Africa over to North America. They knew about this, and he had been sailing with them. That's why Christopher Columbus got the gig, because I know the lie you've been told is they were looking for India. The problem with that is that even the Romans and the Greeks talk about the Chinese. They knew that India existed. What are you talking about? They talk about the Chinese. You think that they could talk about China and not talk about India? Right? They knew what Indians were. Right? You talking about, oh, they were trying to find India, they were trying to go around the whole world or whatever. Do you not know that English folk and Japanese folk were already trading information, and that baseball is not an English sport, nor is it an American sport, but baseball is a Japanese sport? Like, do you not realize, do you not recognize that Japan started getting into some of the stuff that it did and using it to conquer other people because Japan learned about evolution? When you talk about American pastime, this is not American. This is Japanese. This is why when Japanese players come over, Ichiro and whoever the new cat is now, when they come over here, they be whooping y'all tail. They're better than y'all when they come over. Why? Because Japan been playing longer. They're better at baseball than you are. You know what I'm saying? But in your mind, oh, they're better. No, they're not. These people are not better than you. Not in any way, shape, or form. Not in the slightest. It says American, we're not going to eat French fries anymore. French fries aren't even French. Talking about, man, I love these American waffles. Man, waffles made in Belgium. And by the way, you get a Belgian waffle. I was in Belgium, and you have a Belgian waffle. You better not even think about putting syrup on that thing. That thing is gonna be perfect when you eat it. Right? You never had a waffle until you had a Belgian waffle at the actual restaurant or at the actual establishment. I didn't have homemade. Homemade probably tastes even better. But you go to a restaurant and have a Belgian waffle. You better not put no. I'm not saying that they won't. They're minded, but you do not even think about putting something on it. It's gonna taste. It's gonna be the best thing you've ever had in your life as far as if you like waffles. I don't even like waffles. But if we went to Belgium right now, Belgium, very racist place to be honest. But if we went to Belgium right now, even if we just was there for a couple hours, I've got to get a Belgian waffle. I'm just saying, there's a lot of stuff. Somebody keeps telling you all these different things, and you have no clue what they are. You said not even as much as you pick your finger, right? We have no clue where this stuff comes from. Talking about Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving wasn't even an official holiday until the 1860s. You know how I know this? Because Abraham Lincoln is the one that made it an official holiday. What are you talking about? He's the one that made it an official holiday. Nobody celebrated Thanksgiving, and he only made Thanksgiving a holiday to try and get people to stop worrying so much about everything they had been through or whatever, so they tried to lie and redo American history to act like they didn't call them savages. And act like Abraham Lincoln himself wasn't just offering people. You guys know that Abraham Lincoln, when he signs the Emancipation Proclamation, which is a proclamation, it is not a law. This is how you can still have slave owners in the North. But he signed an Emancipation Proclamation, and even when he did sign it, when he started looking bad for it, he said, hey, you know what? Maybe we'll give you reparations for your slaves. And those slaves didn't go ahead and get to just be free. They had to work for the government. Like I'm just trying to help you, fam. I'm just trying to help you. How you doing, Shalat Yosef? Right? I'm just trying to help you. Like, you've been taught a lot of weird things. But on the day of the Emancipation Proclamation, which is not a law, on the day of the Emancipation Proclamation, there's 400 at least. They'll only admit to 400. Many people will tell you it could be 4,000, 5,000. They were supposed to officially execute 4,000 Lakota and Dakota people at the same time, right? In North Dakota, South Dakota area, when they had basically set up a lie to go ahead and take land that they were supposed to pay for, right? But instead of paying for it, they tried to act like they betrayed the United States corporation and they were going to go ahead and just take the land. They did take the land, but they were going to at least officially execute 400 or so, or 4,000 or so. They ended up making it a tenth of that because somebody came to Abraham Lincoln and was like, if you allow this to happen on the same day that you're doing this whole emancipation thing and supposedly freeing the slaves, it's going to look really bad. He was like, yeah, you're right. And then they found out, well, what's tolerable? Well, Americans, so-called Americans, these white folk, these good white folk out here, they'll be okay if you only sacrifice about 360 plus 360 Lakota and maybe do 40 at the Dakota. Oh, okay, we can do that. We still need to make a statement. We won't even move it today. We could even do it a day earlier. We could have done it a day later. Then he had to be on the same thing. No, we still got to make a statement. We're not going to back down now and let these savages win. These Negroes win. Do you know that the first watch this. What is the first confederacy? Matter of fact, what are the only confederacies to exist that are actually sovereign, that actually ever were allowed to exist, that anybody ever agreed to? What are the only confederacies that ever existed? I'm going to show you how they reverse engineer this stuff. What is the only confederacy or confederacies to ever exist? See, they reverse engineer this stuff you don't even recognize. You think about the Confederacy as far as the South, exactly, right? You think about the Confederacy as the South. The only confederacies to ever exist were Native American. No such thing as a Confederacy of the South. Somebody says, well, no, my people, they fought. Yeah, okay. You were traitors. You left the Union. You fought for slave right or for states' rights to have slaves, right? Don't try to lie. Virginia said it, Georgia said it, Mississippi said it, Missouri said it, Texas said it, Florida said it. You can try to lie all you want. They came out and said it, right? You can try your best, but then and your flag, the rebel flag. Now it's not the whole flag. It's really just the jack. When you see people with that X on there with the stars, right? Their stars and bars, so to speak. That's the jack, right? So when you have a jack, for example, like the United States of America, the white and red bars, that's the biggest part of the flag. But in the corner of the flag, you have the little rectangle with the 50 stars. That's the jack. So if you see the jack means something a little different. The Confederacy has the jack. The Confederate jack is what's brought out. So whenever you see the Confederate jack, you think that's the flag. That's the jack. It's not the same as the flag. There are actually three versions of the flag. One version of the Confederate flag had the jack, and then everything was white. One had a jack, and it had another picture, and one had a jack, and I think it had some version of the bars going across or whatever, right? But the jack is the X. That same thing that you see on the flag. If you go to Florida, I think Georgia, pretty sure Alabama, I believe in Texas, that X that you see, that's somebody saying that the South shall rise again. Right? Matter of fact, that same jack, if you go to Brazil, because slave owners in Texas, right, when you deal with Juneteenth, and our soldiers, the soldiers who look like us, came in and they were getting ready to go ahead and we were fighting for our own freedom. We were getting ready to just be finished with that. The slave owners got on ships, and went to Brazil because Brazil was the only country where slavery was legal. Now, slavery was still legal everywhere. It's still legal in the United States, but they were the only country that still was like breeding slaves like that, and maybe even shipping them in a couple different places. But they were the only country that really was saying like it's straight up legal. So they went on a long trip, whether some of them went through Mexico and then walked their way through, or went on ships. They went down to Brazil, and in Brazil today, guess what you still see a lot of? Same Confederate jacks. A lot of people don't know. See, and so when somebody says in Brazil, oh, isn't it crazy that you only see, people that look a certain way, a certain color on television and on magazines and this and that or whatever, and you say, no, they'll say, no, see, that's you bringing that stuff up. They don't even have that. In Brazil, everything's fun. Everybody look like this. You forget that in Brazil, they had something called Blancamenta, which literally, Blancamenta, which means that literally people came over and were paid to make sure that they married into black natives and black Negroes and black Africans and black families to ensure that they would go ahead and lighten their skin so that they'd have some of the same features, but they would have lighter skin so that they could say that they were the actual Americans. Because remember, what is an American by law? An American is a copper-colored person indigenous to the Americas. So how do you become American unless you become a $5 Indian or unless you change what the Indians were? How do you become a $5 Negro? I know I'm making up a term there, but you get what I'm saying. How do you become a $5 Negro? You pay, or you make sure that people think that you're something that you are not. How do you become an Israelite? When you have on wax, when you have on recorded. You can look it up right now on YouTube if you want to leave and then come right back. Right? How do you say that we have on recording, on video, in the late 1800s and the early 1900s and even up to the 1940s? How do you have black folk who are Israelites in Israel, and then all of a sudden in the 1940s, you can't find black folk no more? How is it that England is over Israel and then sells it to the Rothschild family, then the Rothschild family allows the Ashkenazi to come in, and now all of a sudden you think that everybody that's an Israelite has to be Ashkenazi? How is it that Hitler offed a bunch of, and this is true, a bunch of Jewish people, and we shouldn't make light of that, that's horrible. He offs a bunch of them. And then at the same time, even though Hitler offs a bunch of them, we didn't think it was 6 million Jews. You know why? Because there were Africans who had concentration camps. There were Americans who were in concentration camps. There were people who wrote books that were in concentration camps. There were people who were in the media who had concentration camps for them. There were concentration camps for many kinds, but how did it become the only kind that you care about are Jewish? Could it be part of a rhetoric that made sure that a group of people would be allowed to take over somebody else's country and say from the beginning that their responsibility was to ensure that history was changed, to ensure that you only thought about the only people, the Holocaust, the only Holocaust that mattered was theirs? And they wouldn't even include the other people. I know this because I was raised a Jehovah's Witness. And I used to wonder to myself, why is my mom, every year, right, my same mother, my same sweet mother who I talked about earlier, every year she would ensure that we had to go to the Holocaust from when I was little, right? And you see atrocities and you see all these things they put in front of you and you watch videos and you be like, and I was used to seeing it, but I was like, why is my mom really like bringing us every year? But I started looking forward to it. I'm like, why so? And then I started realizing, oh yeah, like when I come here, it talks about the Jews, you talked about former Yugoslavia, it talks about a lot of different things, but also they would tell the truth sometimes in there, not sometimes, a lot of times, they would tell the truth about, yeah, there were black concentration camps here. Hey, there were African concentration camps here. Hey, there were Jehovah's Witness concentration camps here. My mom would bring me there to be like, if you're a Jehovah's Witness, I want you to know about this, and since we're black, I want you to know about this as well. I'm thankful that she did that, right? She was trying to show me that, yes, what happens is an atrocity, and Jewish people are still marginalized a lot because people can't stand anything that looks close to Israel, and so even if somebody perpetrating Israel, they're still going to get it because they don't recognize how much they hate us, that even if you say you're a fake version of us, they're coming for you, right? That being said, though, she also made it a point that I could see what it was that others went through, including our own people. She wanted me to see that. I'm thankful that she did that. I know some of y'all don't want to tell your children the truth, or you think it's too soon. And look, you raise your child the way the Holy Spirit says raise your child. I'm just saying, be careful when you start hiding too much stuff from them. Sometimes they need to know, and sometimes they need to know reality. Look, sometimes they know before you tell them, or they're aware of something before you help them to know it. Why? Why do I say this? My son at 2 or 3 years old, started making it very clear that he was uncomfortable around police. I didn't teach him ACAB. I didn't teach him to hate anybody. I didn't teach him that they're going to be shooting up the neighborhood. He knew. He knew some of this already because it's there. He saw how police seem to be around us a lot. He saw that when I show up, I seem to get looks from stuff. He saw that when he showed up and went to stuff, he's 2 or 3 years old in the back of the car saying, oh, I can't stand when the police are here. First of all, how a 3-year-old is even voicing that at 3 is crazy. But he's letting me know. And I realized then, okay, there's certain things we just got to have a conversation about. And he will oftentimes let me know in his own way, you know, what's going on. He's the one to let me know. He'll sit there, we'll be walking through the street, he'll be saying, why is this, and this, look, this is not me speaking, this is Lil Solomon. And I would defend him because he's righteous in this. So if you're going to come at me or you're going to come at him, heck, we're going to have a tussle today. It is what it is. But look, okay, my son will walk around and be like, why is it that our women don't respect themselves? How could they wear that? My son, a child shall lead them. I'm sitting up there just trying to make sure I'm not looking at it, I'm not focused on it, and sometimes I'm not worried about it because they're not my wife. Whatever, right? But I'm trying my best to just be like, hey, this is just what life is, I guess. We're in the world, this and that. My son is sitting up there, Dad. And sometimes he can't whisper. You know, sometimes he's like, Dad, what? Why would they? And I have to be like, son, okay. Right? But like I said, I'm trying to learn how much to let him cook. Because I don't want him to feel like it's a bad thing to be like, hey, respect yourself. He'll be walking around. Hey, why is it that everywhere I go, these guys, they always have their pants hanging down. I don't want to see any guys' butts. Why would they want guys to see their butt, Dad? Like, he telling me. And say it in the front of him. I let them cook on that all day. Because I'll tell that to brothers. I'll be like, hey, pull your pants up. Right? You know? But I'm just saying, I've learned, what I'm trying to say is he sees it already. He's been seeing it since he was little. This whole thing of acting like we'll just have this when you get older, blah, blah. No, like on YouTube, they try to inundate them with this foolishness now. I got to be careful. I let them play video games. I let them get on stuff. How people listening know. But I let them get on this stuff where they talk to people and stuff like that, you know, and he don't really do headphones so we can hear. You know, I know he could do headphones. I don't mind him doing it, but I don't push him on it because I like to hear what he's saying and what they saying back. And yeah, cats be saying all types of weird stuff or whatever. We have to have conversations about that. I have to sit down sometimes. Sometimes I gotta fry people up because they be trying to fry him up, and and I gotta let it be known you're not gonna come at them, but also I gotta teach them sometimes stand your ground. But they know, they see this stuff quite often. As much as we want to act like it's not there. They see this stuff quite often, and so what I'm trying to say is you're gonna have to have some discussions, and sometimes yes, okay, you can't be on it, you can't do this, you can't go to this site, but sometimes you're gonna have to help them to recognize at a young age this is how we navigate, right? Because they're gonna get to an age you don't want them to be so sheltered. Shelter them, but prepare them for battle. That's a Negro. Right? I don't care if it's a Negro with only 1/16 blood. The world, when they find out they have a drop of blood in them, they're Negro. Have you not found it interesting that what's the guy's name? The big time red pill cat. Adam something, is it? What's his name? The one that I forget where he lives. I said Yugoslavia earlier, now Yugoslavia's in my head. The big red pill cat. He got kicked off of YouTube and stuff and basically shows up on other people's stuff still. Andrew Tate, thank you. Andrew Tate is black. And he busy trying to give you the whole it doesn't matter and blah blah. The world said, okay, Andrew, that's cool. But they see you as Negro. That's in Romania, thank you, yeah. They see you as Negro, bro. I'm not trying to say that there's no sense in what you're making at all, or there's no sense to what you were saying. What I need you to recognize, though, bro, is that at the end of the day, guess how the world sees you. Right? Because there's a bunch of people doing exactly what you're doing, and they're not going to be put in jail like you were. I'm not saying that is even right. I'm not even saying that we should, that's cool. I'm saying it's reality. And your child is about to go out into a battle. And if you're not careful, if you didn't make sure that they recognize how to use their battle gear, if you didn't make sure that the battle gear works, if you haven't taught them how to use that 9, if you haven't made sure they've been instructed in that spray, if you haven't made sure that they recognize hand-to-hand combat, if you don't let them know that this fight might go to the ground, I'm here to tell you that somebody's going to take advantage of the spot that you left open because you were so busy trying to make sure that everybody blended in and fit in nicely. I'm just saying, you might, had to deal with some stuff. Yeah, he supposedly converted to Islam, but is doing all the same stuff he was doing before. So, then I'm not going to be that person to be like, well, in Islam, blah, blah. I mean, because you can say, well, there's Hebrew Israelites to do, yada, yada. But, yeah, supposedly converted to Islam and stuff, but still you should, and doing it because he's trying to be righteous and he's trying to teach everybody about doing shit, but you trafficking women, bro. So, you got to recognize they see the Negro in you. And you had to reverse engineer to believe that Negro was just a word that we put in there for slave. But when you were supposedly free from slavery, then they started calling you Negro again. Isn't that interesting? And they started calling you Negro right after they were calling you freedman. So you went from slave to being free, and then even when they took your freedom away, they still had to admit that you're still a Negro. But you don't know what a Negro is. An Israelite is a Negro. Remember we were talking about Amina Castle and all those castles around the same place in that area? All those castles are Negro castles. Scattered Israelites. The world knows this. Your superiors know this. We don't. But even in his story, they admit it to you. We know that you can't be Shemitic or Semitic without being Negro. Now, is it possible that there's some Negro blood? There's some E1B1A blood in those who say that they are us and are not? There might be a couple of them, sure. And do they follow some of the commandments? Sure. But we're not going to pretend that the Negro has no power. See, when you recognize what the Negro is, then you recognize who you are. You're afraid to be called Negro. Matter of fact, you use it as a derogatory term. Well, you know how them Negroes be. But you a Negro, if you are. In fact, we're talking about today. Not every Negro is a black, or not every black person is a Negro. Matter of fact, technically not every Negro is a black person, but y'all don't want to have that conversation. Right? Because if somebody's grafted in, then they become Negro because they become Israel. Israel and Negro are synonymous. I know you want to hear that. Israel, not modern Israel. I'm talking about the Israelites of the Bible, the Israelites of the scrolls, right, are synonymous with Negroes. So if you're a Negro, you carry a certain faith. That's right. Yes, sir. Synonymous. If you have an Israelite faith, you have a Negro faith. I know they don't want to tell you, but see, it's been reverse engineered. If you recognize who the Negro always was and where the Negro came from and where we were scattered, and by the way, we didn't start getting scattered in what you just call New Testament either, or certain things, right? Go back to what you call Old Testament. You will discover that we were scattered back then. It starts talking about, you can't forget about the fact that Kemet and Israel is mixed, and therefore you can't talk about Kemetic people without realizing many of them are your brethren, because many of you are mixed with Kemetic blood, because it was Kemetic people that left Kemet with us. That means you also can't deny Cushitic blood. That means you also can't deny Moabite blood. Right? You think that it's just a simple... No, the Negro is the Israelite. The Israelite is the one who comes out of Israel. The one who is Israel speaks the same language and has the same belief system as Isaac. The one who is Isaac has the same belief system and same structure in his life as Abraham, who became Abraham, right? Who goes back to... Who goes back to Avada, or Hebrew, and then goes back to who? Shem. Shem goes back to Noah. Noah goes back to Lamech. Lamech goes back to Methuselah. Methuselah goes back to Enoch, and we can keep going back to Seth, who goes back to Adam, who is man, mankind. And the only reason why the Negro or the Israelite is as important as he is, as she is, even as a nation, is because we are the only nation who was supposed to be 100% created, right? The only family who is 100% created to be under the laws of Yah. Everything that we do and everything that we did and everything that we shall do is supposed to be 100% affected and influenced by Yahweh's word and his law. That's it. That's what makes the Negro so important. Now, why is it that therefore now they're trying to make the Negro a footnote or make it something that you take away? Why is it that our own people are so busy trying not to be Negro? Why is it that our own people are trying so busy not to be even African anymore, let alone African American? It's because that you're being phased out, Blockionmenta, right? What they did in Australia as well, what they're doing, what they did in Canada, where you try to make sure that you phase the people out and get them to try their best to be in the Balaam doctrine, which means that anything that is Israelite must be gotten rid of. You're warned about it in Revelation chapter 2, verse 14, by the way, not to do that. But anything that is Israel is supposed to be taken out. That's right, trying to keep us from being a nation. Matter of fact, Revelation chapter 12. We haven't really done too much Bible digging today. Please forgive me. We've been in the Word, right? But let's go ahead. Let's go to Revelation chapter 12. Let me start off by making sure that we hit bottle shots, Gaimon, or Genesis chapter 3. And we make it a point to say that in Genesis chapter 3, it tells you that the seed, that means the children, the seed of the serpent, should be an enmity with the seed of the woman. The woman is described as being a woman who's travailing and giving birth. She's going through birth pains, in other words, and she's trying her best to push out a child that we discussed yesterday in Isaiah chapter 9, verses 6 and 7. She's trying her best to push out this child. She's trying her best to push out this child. Right? A child was born, a son was given, the government, the kingdom shall be upon, or which one is it? The kingdom shall be upon his shoulders, and his name, his authority shall be wonderful. Why is he wonderful? Because he's the mighty Elohim. He's the everlasting Abba, right? And also the Prince of Shalom, right? And so we talked about that yesterday, right? Well, all these things, and then we know that this woman is also known as a wife. She's the wife of the Most High. This wife of the Most High is told who she is in Jeremiah chapter 3, when she's mentioned to be his wife, even though his wife is wild and cheating on him. He says, Israel, you are my wife. You are this woman. You are the one who the Messiah comes out of, represented in Psalm 119, verses 9 through 16. He says, you are this to me. Praise God. All right, so Revelation chapter 12. This is the Negro. This is those who are grafted in. Hear me, Negro. Hear me, Israel. This is for you. Starting right at verse 1, we see that we're dealing with this woman mentioned in Genesis chapter 3. This child mentioned in Isaiah chapter 9. This wife mentioned in Jeremiah chapter 3. It says here in Revelation chapter 12. You ready? Y'all ready? Revelation chapter 12 starts off, coming from the King James Version. It starts off by saying, and there appeared a great wonder in heaven. His name, his authority shall be wonderful. All right. And there appeared a great wonder, something amazing or a sign. That's what a wonder is. It's a sign. There appeared a great sign or wonder at Shamayim in heaven. Right? A woman clothed with the sun. Right? A woman who was the light of the world. Or a woman who was a light in the world, if you will. Because we know Yahashua is the light of the world. Let me be careful with my language. But this woman who's clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet. Yeah, I'm sorry, and the moon under her feet. Sorry, so she's clothed with the sun. She's bright. The moon, the lesser light, is on her feet, reflecting down to the feet. And upon her, what's upon her? Upon her head, a crown of 12 stars. Now, in Genesis, there's not the 12 stars, because in Genesis, there's not the 12 nations yet. But now this woman who was talked about then, she's being described again, but now there's 12 stars upon her head. What makes her royalty? Right? What makes this woman royalty? What makes this wife royalty? What makes Israel royalty? It says here, she had a crown on her head of 12 stars. And she, being with child, she's pregnant, cried, travailing in birth, cried, travailing in birth. This woman doing the same thing Genesis 3 woman did, right? And pained to be delivered. Went through a lot to be able to get the Messiah to come and be born. We've gone through a lot just to give birth to a lot of ideas, businesses, etc. Come on, right? Verse 3. And there appeared another wonder in heaven. This was another sign that we should be looking for. What happened? And behold, a great red dragon. Right? By the way, dragon is also synonymous with the word serpent, also synonymous with the word dinosaur. Right? Okay. So this great red dragon. But this dragon had 7 heads and 10 horns. We've talked about that plenty before. I'm not going to talk about that today, other than to make sure that you know there's the beasts, right? You want to talk about 7 heads, where you've got Kemet, really Cush-Kemet combination, but you've got Kemet, you've got Assyria, you have Babylon, the Medes and the Persians, Greece, Rome, and actually, technically, the Roman Catholic Church is part of Rome. But we could say the Roman Catholic Church, but technically the Roman Catholic Church is part of Rome. Really what's happening now is that 7th head, you're dealing with kind of like this, how can I say it? I guess you're dealing with like this American / English / like this new thing or whatever that we're in now, right? But it's all part of the same head. It's sort of the same beast, right? Okay, let's keep on going though, right? Verse 4, and his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven. Remember, a star represents an angel. An angel is a messenger. These messengers are the spiritual messengers, the ones that fell. So the devil has basically influenced them. We know at this point these are the ones that fell down to earth, try to take on the bodies of they took on the bodies of men. They possessed men. They had sex with women. They had these giants, Nephilim, etc. Okay, so this is who we're dealing with. And the dragon stood before the woman. The dragon stood before who? The woman, the wife, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. In other words, just like the doctor be waiting for the baby to fall out, the dragon is waiting for the baby not to be fall out, to push out, excuse me. The dragon is waiting. The devil is waiting for the Messiah to come up. Right? Okay, verse 5. And she brought forth a man-child, Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6 and 7, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up unto Elohim and to his throne. So so with a rod of iron, this child comes out with a rod of iron that was going to beat the iron, the Rome, right? The Romans, right? The Romans were in charge when Yehoshua was born, you see? And that was supposed to be the point. And he was going to come out and he was going to what? He was going to be more represented. He was going to be more powerful than Kaiser or their Caesar. Okay. Verse 6. And the woman fled into the wilderness. So once Israel gave birth to this child, she ends up going into the wilderness. She's gone. Right? Left the child that was born for us, left him to himself. Left him to his own devices. Right? Left Yehoshua hanging. Are you catching this? Right? A lot of people miss this. Right? When we know about this, we can start talking about this from a proper cultural perspective. All right. So now this woman, Israel, fled into the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of Elohim. So even though she fled, Elohim has prepared a place for her, even in the wilderness. Yehoshua is coming back looking for her, right? But she's already left and she had a place prepared. So even though she was scattered, even though she was wrong, even though she was destitute, the Most High said he has prepared a place for us. Come on, Negro. Don't miss it. Right? And it says this place prepared of Elohim that they should feed her 1,260 days, or what's known as a time, times, and half a time. In physical time, that would be 3.5 years. But if we were to take that in dream form or vision form, days mean years. So you take the days and put them into years, you have 1,260 years. Some of you know this from some of our teaching, but just real quick, just to put this out here, we have this on our YouTube channel so you can look it up. But just to make this real quick, if you take 1,260 years, you go from the Justinian decree, where Rome was split into two, and Western Rome was allowed to be taken over by the Bishop of Rome, who now becomes your first pope, not Peter, but the Bishop of Rome. In 538 AC becomes your first pope, or AY if you want to talk about after Yehoshaphat, right? But after 530 AY or 530 AC after Christ, then add 1,260 years together, and you get 1798, I believe, 1798. When you get to 1798, that's when the Pope is offed by Napoleon's general, right? And then eventually the Roman Catholic Church comes back into power and becomes more powerful behind the scenes. It's something you've ever thought before. And so John, the Revelator here, will say later in the next chapter, in chapter 13, that one of the heads of the beast looks like it was cut or it had a mortal wound, but somehow it's still alive. He's saying that, hey, if you add up the time, 1798, this should have been over, but somehow, some way, the Roman Catholic Church or the same beast-type spirit is still in existence. Okay, so that's what you're talking about with 1,260. All right, but anyways, verse 7, and there was a war in heaven. Like we said, there's a battle going on, right? Michael, or who people say Michael, and his angels and his messengers, right, fought against the dragon, fought against this dinosaur or this serpent, and the dragon, the Satan, fought against his angels, right, and prevailed not. He lost. He's defeated already. He lost. Not just he shall be defeated, he's defeated already. Not just he's defeated, once he was initially, Yah said, you're going to lose your spot. No, he lost. There is no, he's not going to win. Anytime he gets a win, it's because you allowed him to win a battle. But he already lost. How you doing, guys? So watch this, verse 9, and the great dragon was cast out. I'm sorry, verse 8, and prevailed not, neither was there place found any more in heaven. Verse 9, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent. He ain't even a regular serpent, even a new serpent. He old, he waxed. That old serpent, called the devil, At-Hasatan, or At-Satan, right? And when it says and Satan, that's when I be saying At-Satan, if you hear that, right? That means towards the devil or towards the Satan. He's not, we don't have a word for him having authority. He's always the Satan, Hasatan, At-Satan, because he lost his authority, he lost his name. Okay? In verse 10, and I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation. Now is come salvation. Yehoshaphat was bruised in the heel, if you recall, Genesis chapter 3, but he ultimately smashed the devil's head. The devil was defeated. So verse 10, right, and remember he tried to go, this is happening after it's already happened, then the devil tried to catch Yehoshaphat on his way back up into heaven. He loses. Verse 10, and I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation. Now we can start to salvage ourselves. And strength. And the kingdom of our Elohim. And the power of his Messiah. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down. The accuser of our brethren. We talked about that a long time ago. He is the accuser, right? So the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before Elohim day and night. So the one who accuses us, right, he's been cast down. We look down upon him. He used to accuse us day and night. And so what does he do? He tries to get his imps, his people, his nation, his children, who are adopted by him. He tries his best to have them day and night do what he can't do anymore. He's not in a position. He's not coming to, like remember in Job, he had a discussion about Job in heaven with the Most High. Why you guys are confused that people can come to your church and be demonic when the devil was in heaven during a praise and worship service is beyond me. Yeah, he can show up, right? That being said, though, he can't do that anymore. He's kicked out. He can't do that in high places. So what does he do? He does it in high places on the earth. Those who are willing to follow him, he'll give them all this stuff, but he'll say, hey, just bow down and worship me and follow what I have for you. That's it. If you would just bow down and worship me and follow what I have for you. Right? That's what he does. So it says, but he's cast down, right? Verse 11, and they overcame him, and they overcame him. Now we got to get back to who is they. Who is this Negro? Who is Israel? what's going on? Verse 11, and they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb. They overcame him by what? The blood of the Lamb. Passover is important. They overcame him by the blood of the Lamb. The covering is important. The sacrifice is important. If Yehoshua never came in the flesh, then what's the point of this? They overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. Wait a minute, whose testimony? Who's testifying? This is a lawful term. Whose testimony in this is this? Who are we looking at who is confessing? Whose confession is before us? No, Ma'achel and Yehoshua cannot be the same according to this, just according to this, even if we look in the verses, right? Because Yehoshua is the son, right? Yehoshua is the son who's born, right? Machiel fights the devil when the devil tries to stop Yehoshua from going back up, right? Acts chapter 2, right? And Machiel was not bruised in the heel, right? As he bruised him in the head. So there's some people, but that's usually like more of like a Jehovah's Witness type teaching. I forget whoever initially started it. I know Jehovah's Witnesses started teaching that more and more. Like Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, a lot of people, they kind of come from the same background, but they started going in different directions. I'd have to look it up. The Russellites, all that stuff. I have to look it up. It's been a while, right? But Yehoshua is the one who is being born, right? Ma'achal is the one who is fighting on behalf of Yehoshua, right? But Machiel, by the way, is an angel who never, took over on somebody else, right? Because remember, the only angels that ever took over a human being's body did so without permission. The only spirit that we can say besides ourselves, but hopefully you're getting what I'm saying. The only spirit, because really Yehoshua is in fact Yehovah in the flesh, right? So we're trying to equate stuff that doesn't equate, like we're using other people's stuff. But if you will, if we're trying to do kind of, hopefully you're catching me. I'm saying it to you. I'm hoping it doesn't go anybody else's head, but I'm saying it to you because I know you studied. So I'm gonna say it like this, and hopefully you catch what I'm saying. So Yehoshua, if you're putting them in the same ballpark, kind of sort of, Yehoshua is the only one of them who's the only begotten son. That means he's the only one who was ever allowed to be able to become into the flesh. And it also means that Mariam, his mother, Mary, was not that word that rhymes with grape, right? That didn't happen to her. So his mother, Mary, had to give permission for this to happen. Then the Holy Spirit, she came upon Mary and allowed that transaction to take place. And Yehoshua is the only one who's the only begotten son. How? Because he's the only one that was already sufficient within himself, spirit, etc., right? Who then who was allowed by the Most High to come into a body, if that makes sense, right? So yeah, but no other person except for fallen angels ever did that, or no. Yeah, I guess we could say angel, a person as well, right? So no other person in heaven, no other heavenly person ever was allowed to do that. Anybody else who did that, they were specifically created. Yehovah himself gave a piece of himself as his spirit and put it inside flesh for that particular reason. Yehoshua was already a spirit who was the Most High, and at the same time had been separated for this express purpose to make sure that he could come. Remember, because Yehoshua had already agreed that we would give his life for us before the foundation of the world as well. So there's a lot of moving pieces, but I think you'll get it. I hope I'm not going over anybody's head, but I'm just saying it directly like that for time's sake. All right, because I know it's almost 11. so how you doing, Sister Shima? How you doing, 360 Prophet? So seed, is sperm, well, yeah, it's zara. It's the same word, can be used for both. So yeah, zara, Avlar and Paleo Hebrew specifically, because that's the culture we're talking about. You could use it for words that come out your mouth. You can use it for seed that goes into the ground. You can use it for seed that comes out of the testicular region. But anyway, let's finish this up real quick, right? So verse 11, and they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto death. They were dedicated to this until the time came that they would lose their life. Those who will lose their lives shall find it. Those who are all about their lives shall lose it. Okay? For educational purposes only. Verse 12, therefore rejoice. Because of that, watch this, rejoice Once again, what does revelation mean? Revel means what? Revel means to rejoice. T-I-O-N means a person, place, a thing. So what the people of the world, right, the people of the devil, his seed, when they read Revelation, they what? They tremble because they know what time it is, right? But when we read Revelation, it's not apocalyptic. For us, it is something we rejoice in. So now, who is they? Like we said, verse 11, and they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb. Well, verse 12, who is they? Israel, Negroes. What are they doing? Verse 12, therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea and of the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. Wait a minute, that means that a lot of us are not even going to experience what's going to happen here. Because remember, the woman, Israel, has already separated herself. And all those out there, now there's a remnant that's going to have to deal with stuff when everything happens and when the devil is let loose again and all this stuff, and people are going to have to figure. There's a lot of people who's going to have to deal with that, or persons. But there's a lot of people who have already decided we're going to leave. And we're going to be separated. Yahushua has come through. We've separated. And now we've made sure that we're coming back into a place to where what? Those who are scattered, the remnant, they can come over to where Israel is supposed to be. All right, watch this. Right? Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you. He was kicked out of heaven. The devil is not in hell. The devil is on the earth realm. Let's say that again. The devil is not in hell yet. The devil is on the earth realm. The devil is not in hell yet. The devil is on the earth realm. So what does that mean? That means, woe is a curse, you inhabitants of the earth. Be aware that the devil is going around. Right? The devil has come down unto you, having great wrath. He's upset. He's angry. Having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. He ain't got that much time left. That means that we don't have that much time left. His time and our time, before all time is over, the eschatology, and that second Esther chapter 6 verse 9 takes place to where the end, Esau spirit is the end of this world, this system, but Israel is the beginning of everything else. You say that means in Revelations we are told that the devil will then fall to the earth? Well, yeah, that's what I'm reading, right? Revelation, it says specifically the devil is on earth. He's not in hell yet. It tells us that he will be put in hell, but he doesn't have authority over hell. A lot of the movies are saying that, the devil's in charge of hell, the Most High and the devil, they're having this fight, and the devil wants more souls than the Most High, and that's, no. The Most High is in charge of hell. He has an angel over hell who has a key to it. It tells us this, right? The devil is not in charge of hell. The devil has no authority. He doesn't even have a name. Remember, he was kicked out. He has no authority. That's why he's known as the Satan, the devil. Even Lucifer should be the Lucifer. Lucifer is a title. It's not a name. I know people watch Netflix and stuff and they tell you all this stuff and they're trying to make Lucifer something he's not. It's something that you should be happy about, somebody you should be cool with. No. Lucifer is Lucifer is a title. The Lucifer. He has no he has no name. You say he is able to go in between heavenly and earthly realms, but if that's what you want to do, he was able to do that in Job. Right? But when he dealt with Acts chapter 2, which is what this is really talking about in context, right? After that, he lost. He's kicked out, and now woe unto you, he's on the earth. Before that, he can go back and forth between heaven. We see that in the book of Job, for sure, the book of Job. But as of right now, it says he can't. If you believe that, you got to figure out the scripture that says how he keeps going back and forth at this time. There was a time he could do that. There was a time when he was in heaven because he was, at the right hand of the Most High for the most part. But that time has passed, at least by the time we get here. So then we get to Revelation 12, verse 13. And when the devil, saw that he was cast unto the earth, he persecuted the woman. He tried to go after Israel. He persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child, the woman in which Yahushua himself was born out of, right? The son of David. Verse 14, and to the woman, and to Israel, and to the Negro, were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might flee into the wilderness. So she had already separated herself into the wilderness. Then the devil is upset. He goes looking for Israel. Why? Because Israel was what Yahweh used to be able to bring the Messiah here. So now, here we go, warned about Revelation chapter 2, verse 14, Balaam doctrine. Don't be about this doctrine where people who are paid by the system to go ahead and tell you that anything that's Israel should be denied. These people that tell you Old Testament should be denied. To tell you that Israel doesn't exist. It doesn't matter what color. It doesn't matter blah, blah. I'm not saying that it matters what color to get into heaven, but Israelites obviously were Yah's chosen people. The only nation that exists, that nation was 100% crafted by the laws of the Most High. Not saying we never got away from them, but that's when our problems came, right? When we got away from the law. So we must get back to the law, right? That's just the reality. Okay, so verse 14, so this woman, Israel, right? Once again, Genesis 3, I already talked about the same woman as Revelation 12. Now Revelation 12, she has a crown with 12 stars. Isaiah chapter 9, 6, and 7 talks about who this child is. Jeremiah chapter 3 talks about this woman is Israel because this Israel is the wife of the Most High. All right, well, here we go. Verse 14, and to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might flee into the wilderness, into her place. So wait a minute. Yah had already created a place for this woman. But then, in the wilderness. Then it says the devil tries to show up for this woman, which means that this woman, Israel, Yah has a created place for you, but for some reason, you keep coming out of place. You said you better say under grace. Well, then you don't believe what Paul says. Paul makes it very clear. Romans chapter 7. And just read Romans, the Christology, right? If you read the book of Romans, you'll find very clearly, Romans chapter 1, verse 11, that, he's writing this law that we might be established again. Romans chapter 3 talking about the law. Romans 3:23, however, we must recognize that all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of Elohim. That means his weight, his imprint, and his heaviness, right? Romans chapter 5, verse 8, goes behind that Yahushua commended his love or demonstrated his love to us, that while we were yet sinners, he was willing to give up the ghost. He was willing to die for us. Romans chapter 6, verse 22, we are free, Romans 6:23, because the wages of sin was death, but the gift of Elohim is eternal life. Romans chapter 7, you start getting into law, including where Paul talks about the fact that the law is perfect, the law is holy. He says, should we get rid of the law? Romans chapter 7, verse 1, I believe. He says, should we therefore just get rid of the law, act like the law doesn't matter? Maybe it's Romans 7, one of them. But should we just get rid of the law, act like it doesn't exist, act like it doesn't matter? He says, of course not. He says, Elohim forbid. It's forbidden to do so. So if you do it, so you already have a problem, right? Just like your Messiah says in the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew chapter 5, verse 17 through 20, do not think that I came to destroy the law of the prophets, again, not to destroy, but I came to fulfill. Therefore, until heaven and earth pass away, should not one jot or tittle, the most minuscule of measurements, nor the way that it's written, be taken or be changed until heaven and earth is passed, right? If anyone teaches that you shouldn't live by the law, but and then doesn't live by it themselves, and then they are considered to be the least in the kingdom. But those who teach the law and live by the law, they're considered to be the greatest, and you should know the law greater than the scribes and the Pharisees. Going back to Romans chapter 7, Paul makes it a point to even say that when it comes to the law, Romans chapter 7, going back to there, he says when it comes to law, he says, I wouldn't even know what lust is if I didn't have a law in place that says, thou shalt not covet. He talks about there being 2 laws even, the law of the flesh and the law of the spirit. There's the uncircumcised heart and there's the circumcised heart. If you have an uncircumcised heart, it means your flesh is around your lob or your heart or your passion. So the law should be perfect, but if your flesh is around it, then what you're passionate about concerning the law becomes based off of your flesh. But if you have a circumcised heart, no flesh around it, it means that the spirit can penetrate it. And so the law that should be written upon the tablets of your heart can be something that you get a straight infusion from the spirit, right? So therefore, if you are about the law of the spirit, then you're holy. It even says the law is perfect, the law is holy, the commandments are holy. But there can be a place to where you have the law of the flesh, to where now the things that you want to do by law are the things that you don't want to do, and the things that you don't want to do by law become the things that you end up doing, right? But yes, the law is not something that's the only thing that's there, because we also have to recognize what? Romans chapter 8, verse 1. But if we recognize how the law works and we are perfect under the law and we're not worried about trying to use it to put people in heaven and hell, which we have no right to, then Romans chapter 8, verse 1 tells us what? That therefore we are now no longer under condemnation, for we walk after the Spirit. Well, that's the law of the Spirit in context, right? You're just saying the Spirit, but you won't read Romans chapter 7 to go with Romans 8. We walk after not the Spirit, or we led by the Spirit and not by the flesh. We don't have the law of the Spirit, we have the law of the flesh. We have the Spirit coming directly to our heart, which the law is written on, rather than the flesh covering up that we can make it whatever we want. So now Romans chapter 8, verse 11 says the same Spirit, which by the way, that's confession, is to live by the same logic. We'll get to that in a second. But Romans chapter 8, verse 11 says the same Spirit that rose Yahushua from his grave, it dwells within us and will make alive our mortal bodies. It will quicken our mortal bodies. Romans 8:18 18, therefore the things we choose to go through, this suffering of this present time, are not worthy to be compared to the glory which shall be revealed. Romans chapter 8, verse 19, and that the creature, those that are not part of Israel, right, are waiting on the manifestation of the sons of Elohim, those who are in the kingdom, or Israel, or Negro, etc., whichever word we want to use today, to make sure that now people who are creatures created, but are at enmity with the seed, who are not the children of the Most High like we are, they could actually have an opportunity to come into what the Most High wants. Now, continuing with Paul, he makes it a point to say, and even Romans chapter 9, verse 6, not all Israel is Israel, but hey, Romans chapter 10, verse 1, he says, it's still my prayer that Israel might be saved. Romans chapter 10, verse 2, that Israel has a zeal for Elohim, but it's not according to intimacy, and not according to knowledge. Romans chapter 10, verse 3, which says that we got into everybody else's stuff. We got into everybody else's culture, everybody's belief, and we left what Yah said alone. And I even skipped over some of that because I skipped over Romans 8:28, Romans 8:29, Romans 37 to 39. You can put those in there too. But now Romans chapter 10, verse 4 says, therefore, we need to start going in the right direction towards the end of what Yahushua stood for. Where Romans 10:5, it says that in that direction includes Moses. Romans 10, 6 and 7, I don't have a heaven and hell to put you in, but Romans 10:8, we better be serious about this law, because Romans 10:9 says, if you confess, that word in the Greek even for confess is homologia, which means to have the same logic. So if I don't have the logic of the Messiah, who said himself that you should follow the law, included in Matthew chapter 7, verse 12, where it says specifically in Matthew 7:12, it says that here's the entire golden rule, right? Do unto others as you want done unto you, for this is the law and the prophets. So if you don't know the law and you don't stand for what the prophets stood for, then what is your standard for doing to others what you want done unto you? So back to Romans chapter 10. So now Romans chapter 10, verse 9, you should have the same logic, confess what Yahushua did so he can become your Lord. And therefore you can become a fellow heir of his and believe that Elohim can raise you from the dead. And then you shall be saved. But saved is still not enough, because now verse 10 says, just because you believed, which helps you to go towards righteousness. You're not in righteousness, but helps you to go towards righteousness. Righteousness means right, lawful standing. You also have to make sure that you are confessing, having the same logic to help you towards salvation, because you don't have salvation yet. There's no such thing as a prayer salvation. Romans 10:9 helped you to become saved, great, but you still have to be what? Salvaged. That means to go back to your original intent. Now this is for the Jew and the Greek. Romans chapter 10, verse 11, 12, as long as they both become Yehoshua, as long as they both become kingdom, as long as they both become this Negro, so to speak. Right? But verse 13 says, why? For anyone who calls upon the authority, the name of Yahushua, they shall be saved. But how can one be saved if they don't believe this? And how can one believe what they have not heard? And how can one hear what is not being preached? And how can one preach it unless they be sent? Therefore, verse 16, who shall believe our report? If we're not going to report it, and we are the children, then who's going to do so? Nobody. All right, let's finish this up. So back to Revelation. I'm sorry, we're a little late. If you want to get off now, I get it. We're supposed to be finished at 11. If you don't mind giving me like 4 more minutes, it'll be tied up. Revelation chapter 12, verse 14. And to the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle, were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might flee into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nurtured for time and times and half a time, 1,260 years. There we go again. By the way, that's how long Yahushua's ministry was. Time, times, and half a time. You do the math, right? Then that's all. In the days, as far as actual physical years, that's 3.5 years. Okay, that's where we get that number from. So time, times, and half a time from the face of a serpent. She was separated from the face of the devil. Right? Then the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood. The water here represents people, his children, his nation. The serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood to come after this woman. So the woman, Israel, she was in the wilderness. She had left. Yah had created a space for her. For whatever reason, we keep coming out of our place. The devil comes looking for us in the wilderness, realizing he can't get to the Messiah anymore. Right? So he's mad at us. He tried to find us. Right? That he hates us because he first hated him. That's scripture, right? So he tried to find us, and he can't find, or he finds us out of position. But Yah, right, gave us the wings of an eagle. You shall mount up on the eagle's wing. Gives us the wings of an eagle. Look at Revelation chapter 4, one of the way he governs us. He gives us the wings of an eagle, and we're able to go back, right? Go back to where he had a place prepared for us, and we were protected, right? Verse 15, and the serpent cast out of his mouth the water, his people, a flood, after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. But even though he tried to do this, what happened in verse 16? And the earth and the clay, he is the potter, we are the clay, and the earth helped the woman, helped Israel, helped his wife, helped the one who gave birth to the Messiah. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up, open your mouth. And what? And swallowed up the flood, which the dragon, which the devil, which the serpent, which this dinosaur even cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of Elohim and have the testimony of Yahashua HaMashiach. Those who still keep the commandments, that's who the serpent is after. That's who he's trying to take out. The remnant who has not separated, but has still decided, even though I'm still in the world, even though I haven't found a way to get with Israel yet, even though I'm still in this state, even though I'm in this state, even though I'm in this country, even though I'm in this country, even though I feel like I'm by myself, right? You're going to get attacked. The remnant is still over here. The devil is now shifted towards you. Because you follow what? The commandments of Elohim and have the testimony of Yahashua HaMashiach. That's why it was important that we didn't just let that whole thing slip as far as somebody talking about, you better say grace because the law of death. No. Faith without works is nothing. Grace is important, but grace doesn't mean unmerited favor. That's not even part of the definition. Grace actually just is charis or charisma, who the Most High is. So who he is, yes, that's his grace. Praise Yahweh, hallelujah, all that great stuff. That being said, faith without works, it's going to get you much because you'll be judged. As much as you keep talking about works don't matter. You're judged on your works. If you do the wrong works, is your name not going to be removed from the book of life? I'm not. All right. So we thank you guys. We appreciate you. I apologize. I'm a couple minutes over. We'll just go straight into our shout out. During the shout out, we'll make sure that we put a couple things up that we hope you take notice of. If you've never done a shout out with us before, feel free to come over from Clapper or Facebook or YouTube. And thank you, by the way, if you come over from the podcast as well. But feel free to come on over with us and check this out and be part of our conversation today. We really, really enjoy it, and I appreciate you, and we're thankful and grateful for having you guys on. I should, if all things working together well and the way that I would like, we should be on with you guys this evening on Kofi_42. Thank you everybody who joined us yesterday, all day from Early Rising Bible Study Session with Apostle Dr. Tamach to the special thing that we had through the link that was put on Patreon last night. We appreciate you. Hopefully you enjoyed yourselves, and we'll start asking you guys over time, did you enjoy it? And if so, maybe we'll start doing something like that monthly, or who knows how often we'll do it. But we appreciate you. We thank you. We honor you. I think there were a couple of you that I was supposed to try and reach out to yesterday that I didn't get a chance to for whatever reason. We'll see if we can fit it in today. I am busy doing a lot. We'll be really super busy probably through the month of July. Hopefully a little sooner than that. I was hoping that it'd be done by May. But we got a few things we got to take care of, so I'm going to just make sure that I have to take my time and make sure everything's done correctly and not rush. But we thank you guys. We appreciate you. We honor you. We hope that you guys continue to pray for us. You continue to pray for yourselves, pray for each other, connect with each other like we said. And we look forward to talking to you guys very soon. So we'll do a shout out real quick. If you don't know how the shout out works, it'll become very apparent to you pretty soon. And it'll give you a little more information on what we do. Those who know how the shout out works, feel free to make sure that you do what we do so they can follow your brother, your sister listening for the first time might be able to follow our lead on it. And we thank you again. So we give our honor and praise to the Most High. We give our praise and honor to him for my wife, the Honorable Amma, who doesn't like to say able to be honored. As always, you can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, or website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A-N-D, the letter N. Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. Today, as always, has been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, but we are always changing lives one mind at a time, of being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. And until I have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again, please remember as always, that you're loved, you're necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, in you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, family. Take care. Peace. Hopefully we'll see you this evening. If not, I'll see you Thursday, 7 a.m. Eastern New York time for Thursday Rising Prayer. And thank you again. Appreciate you, fam.